Hey everybody, welcome back to the GLL Masters Summer. We're moving into the second half of the day for the Americas, both North and South America, competing over the course of 5 weeks for $100,000. We're entering week 3 here. I'm Lawler calling the action alongside Matchroom, who's joining me again this week, who I greatly appreciate. As much as I love Axe Toss, it's always fun to mix it up with some new fresh faces. So with that said, how you doing, buddy? How was your week? How excited are you for today?
Oh yeah, moving back into the Apex is always exciting thing as we're going to be looking specifically through the 6 rounds today. I love the setup of this event, and I think it just always makes for exciting matches every single round. So cannot wait to get right into the action.
Well, we won't waste any time. Let's go look at the tournament schedule and how things are playing out. So as I mentioned, yes, we are entering week 3 out of 5, but the real accomplishment is making sure you're in that top 20. So these guys are playing 6 matches every single week, and after all that is said and done, they're earning a bunch of points to get into the grand finals. If we take a look at the point system and the prize pool to kind of break down how everything is going to look, as I mentioned, $100,000 on the line. First place taking $15,000, and only having to split that 3 ways is a pretty good chunk of change. But the way they get there is through the point system. That's broken down through placements as well as kills, and there's something a little bit more specific about that with being in the Alpha Division, isn't it, Matchroom?
Oh yeah, everything in the Alpha Division is doubled, and so that leads to a big factor of where we see a couple of teams that might be able to slip down. Specifically, we have a relegation system that's happening every single week between the 2 different lobbies. So everybody inside of Bravo is trying their hardest to amass as many points as possible to make it back over into Alpha Division to give them the chances at the grand final.
Absolute pleasure getting to watch. All these players have to stay on their toes because you never know who is going to come in and challenge them from that promoted division of Bravo. So a lot of exciting storylines that we're going to be following here throughout the rest of the weeks as well. But a whole lot to cover throughout today, kind of focusing on what is going on for the upcoming day. Obviously, as you guys have, if tuned in the past, have noticed that there's 6 matches every day. 3 will be on World's Edge and 3 will be on Kings Canyon. We're going to start with World's Edge, get these guys nice and comfortable. They're going to kind of find their form, and then we're going to mix it up on them. We're going to throw a curveball, and then they're going to have to do it all over again. So it's going to be some exciting matches.
Oh yeah, I always love the switch over whenever we make it back over towards Kings Canyon. Leads up to a much more action-focused series, whereas the other one's a little bit more rotation-based and a little bit more calm. So you can see how our layout's going to be going throughout the day. Roughly look at it, we're going to have the opening that we're going through right here. 50 minutes after that, we're going to be moving into the second rounds. Then about 30 minutes after that, we'll try to get as quickly as we can into every single match to follow it through with a touch of a break in between the 2 different maps.
As you guys can see, obviously the schedule for today broken down as Matchroom just graciously described for us, but we want to see who's playing. If we take a look here at the attending teams and who's going to be playing today, as we throw that up next, you're going to get to see how this is kind of all developed. We talked about how these guys are competing over the course of 5 weeks and how there's promotions and demotions and how that all works. But as we look at the Americas division, not only North America, but also South America involved in this, and massive shout outs to the teams from the Brazilians and everybody else competing that have giving us some exciting action. 20 teams are at the top. These are the guys that are going to be competing here in the Alpha Division. All these teams have the ability to earn double points this week. On the other side of that then, in the Bravo Division, those are the teams that are trying to get into the top 5 so they can promote into this division. The other thing to pay attention to for the Alpha Division is if you find yourself in the bottom 5 at the end of today after 6 matches, you will demote down into the Bravo Division. So a lot on the line other than just a week-to-week performance.
That is the key factor inside of it, avoiding those bottom 16 through 20 positions. You have to make sure that you can force some type of action to get yourself back up in there. Because while it's okay to go back down to Bravo and farm it a little bit, you have to put in so much more work to get the points back over to make it into that Grand Finals position. Staying in Alpha is always going to be your success point to move forward.
Now, this is the leaderboard after week 2, so if you want to check out what just happened last week, these are the results. The big surprise, TSM and Rogue not on top. Sentinels had a fantastic and very consistent performance that allowed them to bump up. I know you and I were pretty keen on HRN as well, putting themselves in the top 4. So tied at 4th is them and I, Shiny Muffins, along with Protectful, who's been brought along. But from there, it gets pretty close, and we're going to hope to see that separation as we look at the overall leaderboards to see how that's been playing out. But again, you look at those bottom 5, those guys were the ones that were demoted. So Solo Fide, 303, Max Dog, Capital, and Wraith are going to drop down to the Bravo, as we can see here. And these are the 5 teams that are going to be promoting up. So we got Yeet Squad, Free Smoke, Yukio, Ziploc Bags, and Easy Katka. I think that's how you say that, but I probably butchered it.
Oh, gotta always love new teams, and whenever they form and they give us all of the meme names that we are going to readily massacre. But I'm going to join
What do
with
you
you and
mean?
say easy Katka. I think that's the way to stick with it.
Hey,
All right.
as much as I miss anime girls uwu, I'm happy that I don't have to say that anytime they're on the screen because it's quite a mouthful. So, glad to see some a little bit more easy to pronounce names as compared to the EMEA region this morning.
Did
So,
you just say ooh and mouthful in the same sentence? I don't know if I can handle that one.
I don't know many people who can. Anyway, moving ahead, this is the total leaderboards after 2 weeks of play, 12 matches total. These are who are on top. TSM, Rogue, Sentinels, and 303 rounding out the top 4. But the big talk has been the resurgence of the old meta between TSM and Rogue. Rogue kind of took the nail on the head with going back to the Watsons and the Caustics and the things that they were more comfortable with after everybody was talking about how Revenant was going to be broken and Crypto's synergy and the ability to drop EMPs and play super aggressive. Almost everybody, both in this region and in EMEA, have reverted back to the tried and true.
I mean, you always lean back into the staple. Whenever things go wrong and you can't quite figure out how to make the new systems work, just lean back into what is still highly functional for your team and lean into what you know. A couple other teams to keep an eye on inside of this is, as we mentioned just a second ago, HRN I found to be a very star performance in several of our games last week. So really hoping we can continue to see that going, as well as BKB. We've seen a lot of return coming out from the North Americas, but we got to give some love to the other region as well.
Yeah, a whole lot of people across the board, but again, it's very difficult to stay at the top, and that's kind of the benefit of some of these rosters is, yes, they may be dropping down, but that is considerably considered the easier lobby. So maybe dropping to the Bravo is that resurgence or that motivation or possibly the momentum you're looking for to bring yourself back in and kind of hit it that next week running. I mean, 303 is a prime example. 303 had a really rough second week. They ended up dropping down. Literally this week, they ended up playing in a tournament and taking first. And it wasn't like it was a walk in the park. Liquid was in there. There's a bunch of other really high-profile clients. So, again, these guys are grinding and trying to do their best to stay at the top, stay competitive, and make sure they come in week out and get that prize money of $100,000. So, a lot on the line, a lot of us to cover, but as we start to move forward, we're going to get into this first match relatively quickly. The only thing that we have to be careful of is last time and earlier this morning, we had some players that had to leave their game early and left us on a match DQ timer. So, hopefully that doesn't happen this time. We can get straight into the action. But before we do that, Matchroom, I'm going to put you under the bus here out of love and support. Who do you have your eyes on today? Is there any notable players or teams that you really want us to pay attention to?
I know we talked about them a lot last week, but Sentinels I thought was playing out of their minds. They had a really good performance inside of last week. Wanting to see if they can continue making their push back over for that. Team Solo Mid, naturally, everybody's got their eyes on Rogue. Those are the easy answers. But additionally, 303, like you were talking about, that I believe that they actually shifted back down into relegations last week. So we're going to see how they have to handle back over into Bravo and if they can make their way back into the Alpha division. So a little bit to kind of keep an eye on inside of both divisions, to say the least.
Yeah, I want to see, I mean, you're talking about Sentinels. I want to see how Peach steps up today. I think that's going to be a big performance and a big requirement. Part of the reason why their consistency last week was so strong was because of that player. So hopefully we get a little bit of that. Obviously, like I said, and you said, we can go with the easy answers. Is Rogue going to still stay consistent? It's been 3 weeks, man. Can they keep doing it? I have no idea because these guys keep getting more and more competitive. And as the weeks continue, you're kind of just seeing that balancing act of who these teams are truly meant to be in that Alpha division by the end. And it's only going to get tougher. But for the guys that have stayed at the top recently, these are the ones that are going to really start to increase that gap. And I say that, but then we had the #1 team coming in today for EMEA get relegated and drop down. So it's anybody's match, man. I honestly don't know who to give the benefit to because we've already seen so far that there is no guarantee. It is a very difficult thing to stick with.
Well, while we're talking TSM and Rogue, they are still neck and neck to a certain degree. I say that TSM has a fairly substantial lead, but they've been going back and forth to battle it out. That's why they'll make the reference back over towards neck and neck. The question comes into play is, can TSM keep up that momentum to just keep making a larger and larger commanding lead ahead of them to where nobody can catch up? Or could we see them potentially falter and allow Rogue, Sentinels to maybe step up and come after them? Try to close that gap just a little bit to make it more competitive up in first place.
It's not going to be easy, but I'm looking forward to it. There's also been rumors today of Aberlily actually playing a Gibraltar for the first time that we've gotten to see. Obviously, everybody knows him for his Pathfinder and his movement, but maybe the big body boy is going to make a comeback. So who knows what'll happen there. Either way, glad to see these guys are trying to mix and match, not keeping things a little too stale for us. I will say, though, I'm happy to be back on the Americas. These guys W key a little bit harder than they do over in the other regions, so
Yeah.
hopefully we get a couple action. I will say, though, with that said, because they are a little bit more passive, almost every single end circle or like last couple circles is just like that that water circle we had with energy and the rest of the guys that were all up top, where there's like 15 teams.
Yeah.
It's like that every single game over in EMEA. So to each their own. It's pretty hectic.
Well, you get your choice. Either you get a little bit more rotation heavy focus whenever you're looking at Europe, and then you have a couple of stragglers coming in to make it very hectic late game, or you just have a whole hectic game whenever you're looking at North America, as these guys are willing to fight at the drop of a hat. And that's what I love to see. Keep it interesting the whole time.
Well, we're just waiting for the lobby to fill up, and again, we appreciate you guys all in chat coming to hang out. Obviously, if any of you guys joined us, it was very early or late, depending on where you're at, so if you guys are joining us from the European region, it is technically 1 a.m. your time. We greatly appreciate you guys coming to tune in, and for all the American fans and Brazilian fans, thanks for joining us for the first time today. So pleasure having you guys. We're looking forward to getting into the matches, but again, just waiting for the players to get in the lobby and fill that out. So in the meantime, you get to listen to me and Matchroom banter about other random stuff that probably doesn't matter. All I ask is, Matchroom earlier today, Axetos talked about wanting zombies back in BRs. Please don't go down the tangent. That's all I ask.
Well, whenever we talk about Revenant, isn't that kind of like talking about zombies?
Don't.
Kind of
problem. I gotta go.
I'm sorry, but isn't it technically
4
true? All right, I'll just leave zombies alone. I won't even touch it. It's fine. We'll just let it all
like
go.
a second life. Is he more of like a? Is he like a Saiyan because he gets stronger when he dies and comes back, or like how does it work?
Depends.
Right?
Is that really what
Many
everybody's
things.
after? Are they after the Dragon Balls to make the wishes? I don't know how it goes through on that one. But I mean, it's all dark and evil energy, so I'm guessing it has the anime overtones to it, so I'll let it slide.
Oh yeah, 100%. I do like the fact that the latest patches and stuff have been more lore focused. I think
Yeah.
like developers in general don't get enough credit for the amount of writing and effort that goes into like a really good backstory and a really good lore. Like when they brought in Loba and stuff, I was like, this whole concept is just super cool. Whether you enjoy the content or not or whatever, totally irrelevant. The fact that they put that much effort into just releasing a character, I was just like, this is sick. I love everything about this.
How can you not love the content? Every single time there's a new Apex Legends video that comes out that's lore-based,
Oh, so
you know it's going to be super hype. It's going to be sexy. Everything about it's really, really enjoyable. That's kind of like one of the things I look forward to whenever I'm just like scrolling through YouTube and all of a sudden I see a new Apex Legends video that has popped up within like
Right.
past couple hours. Man, I just know, sit down, kick back, relax. I'm in for a fun story. Or a dark
It's
story
awesome.
nowadays.
When do we get like, when are we going to start seeing like game developers and stuff like EA make it happen, but like give us like an anime or something, or like a cartoon animation like alongside it. So like we get to play the game and stuff, but then we also have like all the lore and stuff come out and we get to watch the show. I think that'd be so cool. It's a lot of
as long as
production, a lot of effort, and a lot of budget, but like, please.
I still just remember back the old, what is it, Super Mario Brothers TV show and
God,
the
yeah.
Sonic TV shows.
Yeah,
We want them to be better than that. We don't want like the Legend of Zelda. What I forget what his thing was. It's like whatever princess or something along the.
It
There's so
wasn't
much
good.
cringe
It was
inside of
not-
that.
It was not good. Oh man. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I have faith that they can do it better. They've learned from the mistakes and can
Sure.
really amp it up. Either way, I think there's a lot of cool potential there. Either way, more lore, please, because we absolutely love it. So we're just kind of buying time here. We're almost full with the lobby. So again, we appreciate you guys all being here. But in the meantime, I guess we're going to break down and kind of look. I mean, you're talking the point spread as well. Kind of taking a picture at these standings. With 303 dropping down, so they had 180 points and they were in 4th. Third place is a good 42 points above that. So the top 3 are the top 3. TSM, Rogue, Sentinels by a landslide. And even between that, you're talking 50 and 20 point gaps. So what is it going to take for a team like Superior or Smile or any of these other guys like HRN, who you and I were pretty happy about? How are they going to catch up? Like, what do they have to do?
Well, adding in extra failures coming in from other teams, such as 303 stepping back down in the other lobby, gives them the opportunities to step up inside of this. But it really just comes down to consistency. Whenever you look back over towards the top of everything, you can see that it's going to be up on there. It's going to be TSM. Look at that. They've got a total of 79 kills back behind that. It's going to be Rogue following up with kills, and it's just a descending line as we look at the total KP being a large factor with that. The only outside factor is really going to be Smile, who's racking up a ton of kills, and then on the flip side of it, it's Eyeshiny Muffin Protectful, who is just always going for placement points.
Yeah, I think it's a cool balance to see that because of the way that we handle the Alpha Division. You're talking every kill is worth 2 points. So with things doubled up, if you want to play hyper aggressive and kind of give that a shot, as long as you do well, and Smile is a prime example of that, even though they don't have the placement points, they still find themselves in the top 6. So most times when you are getting a lot of kills, you are also placing well. So they just have to, I think there's that point where they get to that, like, okay, this is going to be the transition from us getting 8th and transitioning going into like top 3. They just have a hard time with either the rotation or there's some sort of disconnect between those two moments. So if they can tie that together, you may see Smile really jump up. I could honestly see it.
Well, there's also a secondary hurdle to look at whenever we're looking at how everything is set up inside of the Masters Summer Series, is the fact that whenever we're looking at the Alpha and Bravo teams, you're constantly having a cycle of 5 new teams entering the Alpha division. So whenever you're playing with that, that means that rotations could be impacted, drops can be impacted, and you're constantly having to do homework. So the teams that are constantly looking back over, seeing what's happening inside the other lobby, whenever they see these new teams step up, go, oh, this is how they like to play, this is how they rotate. That little bit of information could be a key factor to get them a couple extra placement points, a couple of extra kill points. Just leaning into this has worked and it's worked for forever doesn't always work inside of this system.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see on how those changes and the ability to adapt really overcome, especially for a lot of these lesser known teams, the guys that are, just qualifying and moving up. So hopefully we see these adjustments. I want to see the pressure on these top dogs, because at the end of the day, competition breeds excellence. And when you have really good players fighting against each other, you get to see some really clutch moments. And that's what I want. I want the clips. I want to see the crazy headshots. I want to see Abreleli crush people 1v3. Give me the juicy content. That's what I want. Give it to me.
Give me the vertical fights. That's what I'm always about.
Yeah.
Seeing somebody jump back down into the last part of that circle, spray, and just have to fight for their life as everybody is running into it. That is what Apex is about. It's all about the positioning and the speed. Whenever we look at North America, boy, we get that in spades.
Yeah, if you guys missed out on it this morning in EMEA, Luminosity found themselves with 1 player left, 2 teammates down, and pinched between 2 squads, came out on top, ended up winning that game. Go back and watch it. It was hype.
Well, now you've given me motivation to watch that for the remainder of the night. That's what I'm going to be looking back forward after we get done here.
Yeah, a lot of really cool moments.
A couple of teams I do have my eye on, or most notably inside this while we're looking at the leaderboard, NRG and Team Liquid. And no-brainers, new-brainers, however you want to say that one. I know that one's still throwing us back and forth. Team Liquid is known for a staple play style, and the thing about it is the fact that I just want to see them come back into a little bit more of a form. Whenever we're looking at how all of this sets up, those two teams kind of strike me as surprising to be back over in the 11th and 13th spots, respectively.
Yeah, I think Energy's been having a really tough time kind of getting their form together with that new roster. Obviously, many people know them as Ace and Dizzy, and starts with an M, can't think of it off the top of my head, but very, very aggressive, very heavy plays. But that transition out, they picked up a new roster, and we talked about it in the first weeks that very motivated. They have a chance to prove themselves. This is good practice for them consistently, but sometimes it's just not that simple. And I don't want to count out Energy yet. I don't want to count out Liquid yet, because they are both very talented rosters. But it does take some time to find that groove. And the benefit of this weekly, 6 matches every week in a high level competition with money on the line is kind of the best place to really develop and get better. So I'm honestly hoping that as we start to see these weeks progress, and maybe this is their week where they really hit that mark. Like you mentioned, the ability to adapt, look at those replays, kind of mix and match and figure out what's going on. A lot of these guys are going to look towards the top. And this is why it's hard to stay at the top as well for TSM and Rogue. Everybody else is looking at you and being like, what are you guys doing? Let's replicate that, because clearly it works, which then forces the guys at the top to continue to adjust and make those plays. So again, I think that they have the ability to hit that stride. They just have to tie it together. But last week, honestly, man, it was just Energy, TSM, and Rogue all taking turns killing each other roughly on that third circle rotation. Yeah. And then whoever came out on top ended up winning. So it was kind of silly to see how that all played out.
All right, chat, I know you're sitting there being like, oh my God, start the games already. Giving you a heads up, we don't have all the control over that, but we're having to do a quick remake on the lobby. Looks like everybody is getting connected at the time. Just wanted to give you guys an update on what's going on with that. We don't want to leave you high and dry, and trust us, we want to get in the game just as fast as you do. So, but we want to make sure everything is set and ready to go, especially on these first couple of rounds. That way everybody can come in, get warmed up, get situated, and really push through the rest of the day.
Yeah, the best part too is once we get these lobbies going, then they just kind of cycle through real quick. We actually ended up early.
Yeah.
We ended up early this morning. So with that said, Matchroom had a beautiful speech, and just like that, by the grace of God, they have brought us the game 1. So with that said, guys, we're gonna join World's Edge. We're gonna jump into the action here for our very first lobby of the day for the GLL Masters in the Americas region for week 3. So with that said, lobby, everyone is connected. Everybody is good to go. We just need to throw over to it, and then we can get the action underway. That's what I'm hoping. So hopefully that happens soon. Please, I beg you. Maybe. Hopefully. Production?
We're on loading screens. That means it's happening. It's happening, everybody. It'll happen in just a second. Be patient. You know, loading screens are a thing. We all see them every single time we play Apex. Well, yeah. I mean, we've been kind of breaking down scores. We've been talking about play styles. We've been seeing everything come through. I just want to get into the meat and potatoes. I want to see the action. I want to see the violence, and I know you guys do too. So just give us just a couple more seconds to get there.
So with that said, I'm pulling up my handy dandy map, my tricks of the trade, the thing I use to kind of cheat the system because it's good to have those, right? Stuff is getting hot and heavy. We'll cover that, but for the most part, like, let's have some fun. You know, at the end of the day, it is video games, and everybody's here to have a good time. So again, everybody in chat, we appreciate you guys handling the delay and putting up with us as we finally get back into our first match. It started off pretty similar, but now everything is amok. We're starting over. We'll see how it goes. But we're jumping in with TSM, our leaders overall.
A little bit of deja vu. It feels like I've been coming to this place before. See, you thought I was going to be done with the anime references. Never! Alright, so it looks like TSM's going to be landing right back over here. And kind of a repeat of everything. So for a couple of our teams that we saw go down very early, hopefully they learned from that first drop and not going to find themselves overly contested off the start.
Yeah, not a whole lot going to happen. Obviously, TSM, this is one of their favorite spots where they tend to land pretty consistently. I've also seen them go to lava every once in a while as well, but for the most part, it seems like everybody is kind of spreading out as we do get a early fight here between Free Smoke. No armor with this one, so just applying a little bit of poke and then going to back off. Needs to bob and weave his way on the zip line, make sure he doesn't get hit up. Should be able to take a couple of these canisters, loot up, and should be good to go. So not a whole lot going on yet as we jump in with the Easy Kaka on the heels of the team. Being the ones on the other side, already a wingman here for Reflex. See if he's able to put some shots down as he finds a Havoc. He's going to let it go as he has an alternator instead. Well, that's a good find.
Yeah, I know. That's got him feel pretty good. Come around the corner and be like, hey, guess what I found? No arguments over early armor on either side, as you should be able to pick up blue armors off of the get-go. Meanwhile, on the other side, this Free Smoke's going to go ahead and get information. As last time we were back up around Epicenter, it looks like we're going to be hanging out around Thermal Station and Harvester, right in between the two. So with this, a lot of funnel points are going to be coming into play. We were talking about it a little bit. You know, those mountains that are kind of up towards the north of Harvester could be a big factor. Long-range shots coming back and forth between a lot of these teams that they're starting to get vision, but more hello bullets than it is going to be a full-on engagement.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too much, but there's, like you said, quite a few choke points that these guys may have to worry about. But Easy Kaka here trying to fight. And be careful, as fair. Unless it's far, I will not lose. I see a lot of people use that IWNL in our scene as well, and it stands for I will not lose. So I don't know if it's actually just like the full name or if it's actually far. I don't know.
I have learned something today.
I'm gonna butcher.
I never knew what that was. Years in esports, and I've seen it a lot of times, and never knew that's what it stood for. So thank you.
IWNL is I will not lose.
Well, TSM was they were kind of running through, bumped into a new friend. Gonna go ahead and get a quick spray back over.
How's that man not down?
Got to be careful with it. Gonna go ahead and looks like the backflank coming through. So big plays coming out from them. As gonna be a quick flush out, and Prodigy Aces goes down as well inside of the skirmish. So a little bit problematic, but it's going to be a very aggressive TSM off the start, picking up a kill point.
Yeah, really well by Imperial Hal. Peeks that first door and immediately goes to the other one where the guy thinks he's like, yeah, I'll just rotate the other way. But Hal has him read like a book, takes him down, and almost gets dropped for his efforts. So luckily he's got that purple shield. Is able to shield battery back up as we jump over back to SMP and Easy Kaka, who have been kind of touching this whole time, tickling each other, just trying to apply a little bit of damage. Wingman shots over the top from Shiny.
Nice new breakdown. Looks like they're deciding to go with the Apple approach, going ISMP there, so that way they can go ahead, not have the full name entirely written out. So one of the things I did want to point out was we saw Easy Cat. I believe is the entirety of it, being very aggressive early, and that's always good to see from a new team moving their way up into this lobby. Long range shot's going to come through as we're getting a lot of early fights. As you can see inside the kill feed, a lot of people getting vision, and I feel like that's part of play inside of these choke points. Everybody's trying to make their way down as they know where the next circle is probably going to be at, so it's leading to a lot of fights earlier than we normally see.
Yeah, the thing I'm seeing the most, though, in the difference between the regions is in the EMEA regions, they know the people are there and they just choose to avoid it and deal with the outcome afterwards. They want to avoid it for as long as possible. While in the Americas, they're just like, we're going to push it and we're going to win this fight. And then we get the best of both worlds. We get the positioning and the kills. And that confidence can definitely be punished. So seeing a little bit of a difference between the two. And when they come together, I'm looking forward to it. But for now, focusing on just the Americas' energy. Should be relatively looted up. Haven't been able to find the shields that some of their counterparts have, but the EMP coming out. They do end up destroying the drone. Eventually drops down a bubble, so Gibby's going to be able to heal here as he goes in, re-engages. That Pathfinder gets absolutely dropped. As Rocker, the front door, the thermite, and the shield getting dropped down, he's going to have to back off as the other two come in and help.
Nice defensive play coming out from this. You can see NRG still holding back over towards the 8, not wanting to push in too much just quite yet. They're going to go ahead and crack more armor onto it. Full-on retreat coming out from TLP. Not a lot of angles to work with. Looks like they're just going to run all the way back to a preset Wraith portal. Could buy them a little bit more distance, but is it going to be enough? Because I don't know how NRG is planning on playing this one, but we might see them go after this one a little bit more aggressive. But no, I think that they might just be happy and content with where they're at right now.
Yeah, the benefit, though, is Nafin and the other guys should recognize immediately where these rotations are. So as soon as he pushes out, he goes to the left because he knows that's where it's going to wrap to. Checks his angles before healing. So something that I feel to do is I tunnel and I retreat and kind of just do up. I always forget to take that second step of like, okay, just check out your angles first, make sure it's secure, and then go. It's just, these guys are so good with their map awareness and just the game knowledge on what to do next. While I just run straight at people and hopefully I outgun them. Probably not the best idea, but I have fun doing it.
It feels like that's what Apex wants you to do. It wants you to charge. It wants you to chase. And sometimes you just got to stop for a second and go, nope.
So you said it's their fault, right? It's not mine? It's not mine.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, yeah, sick.
Respawn's fault. It had nothing to do with you, Lola. It's all game design and choice, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I will gladly take that.
See, I've gone from trolling you to now trolling Respawn. I don't know if that's the best approach to continue working, but DSM taking a couple of shots back over towards distances. They've got a lot of control, but you can see the vision is a little bit problematic as a lot of different teams, based on approach, might be able to spot them out as well. So see how well they manage to defend this one up, but they do have to be careful.
Yeah, TSM, we've seen them wreak a lot of havoc from this spot as well. If you guys remember a couple weeks ago, we had Aberlele with the 301 shredding people as they ran by. So going to take that spot over by Tree and hold on as BKB taking shots in the back. A lot of fans for BKB in chat earlier, as I saw. Looks like they're going to drop that Watson ultimate, but unfortunately getting the flank here from Rogue. Rogue trying to push in. Super aggressive Sweet coming in through the backside. Unfortunately, the door being blocked. And it's not even going to matter. Snipe down on the outside, able to clutch it up.
Oh, going for the reload right as soon as Rogue makes the play. Hate to see it whenever that happens, but big plays coming out from Rogue. Got themselves very equipped at this stage. Looking back over, going to find themselves a yellow crate to work with as well. It's going to give them a yellow helmet to push them in towards these later stages of the game. Still have 15 squads up and active, 45 people all alive as TLP finding themselves pretty far outside in the ring right now, just nomming on all the red, but that's going to be a lot of syringes that they're potentially going to have to use through here. Banner's pretty low at this point. I'm curious if he has any meds to really work with this. He's going to have to stop and see if he goes down. Don't see it happening inside the kill feed, so I guess he at least had something to work with.
Should be all right, relatively healthy on the edge, but need to be careful, as a lot of these teams already inside are going to be looking at those different flank points and seeing if there is somebody there to pick off easily. As we're back with IS&P, rotating through, making their way into the circle. So early rotations again, even though these guys were already at that point at Tree, weren't going to force it in, so able to make that rotation. They end up finding someone who was here previously, but able to clear the compound. Nobody there.
Pre-defended is the best way to say it. Whenever you come in there, you're like, oh, look, I appreciate this. I know it's now set, but means that one of the teams that was already in position already going to be moving closer towards the center, trying to use geometry in their favor. TSM getting set up with a nice Wraith portal. Got to be a little bit careful as the drop-off from that is going to be right into a hail of bullets. TSM instead kind of flexing back out and away from this one. pretty good position, all things considered. Looks like the rest of the team should be able to regroup back over there, but long-range shots coming in, making it a little bit more difficult for everybody to firmly regroup. Got to be careful at this stage, as it's just going to be a third-party fiesta.
Now, the best part about that Wraith portal, too, is even if Wraith pushes in there, it doesn't really matter. You may take some of that initial damage. You can either back out with movement, or you can use your Q for phase shift, or you just take the portal back to your team. So a lot of opportunities here. That's why they end up going first. So Wraith's kit, probably a must-have on any roster, at least in the competitive scene.
It just grants so much rotation potential. That's the
too
big
good,
factor
man.
for it. Whenever you end up in late game and it's so dangerous to move around, Wraith can get your team into a position that they just cannot walk into. Vibing back over here, it's going to be free smoke right off to the side of TSM. It's going to be odd freestyle, as well as Klain and Rambo coming back behind this. I like the way that one's spelled out. Appreciate it there. Good pun play and come out of this. But TSM look like they're going to get a little bit more aggressive on the outside of this, not too content to have some rowdy neighbors at their doorstep.
Yeah, it was actually a really good decision here from TSM. And you can just see that coordination, right? So even though that door is blocked, they put on that initial damage, immediately move out, surround the building, and then just breaking the objects that are kind of denying them from that. They need to be careful, though, as there is another team to their north that's putting some shots down, but kind of taking the time. They know there's a team in here that they poked pretty well. They need to be careful with energy. Now want to fight. The MP coming out for the Crypto, the Wraith with the aggression, and the Eva for Rocker. Able to go for the trade here on Leon, but doesn't matter. As where's Frex? Frex needs to come in and help out, but it's not going to do it. Gibraltar dropped down and removed, so Frex the only one alive here for NRG, and again, they find themselves in an unfortunate situation.
TLP doing a great job playing based off of position. Got a little ways to go before they manage to make it inside the circle, but they have a beautiful vision from this point. Has an idea on how they're wanting to make their way back over into the circle. So kind of keeping an eye back over there. Still have 45 seconds to make some type of choice. Wouldn't be surprised if they probably give an avoidance towards that complex down below them. They have to assume at this point it's probably already taken, but TLP in a pretty decent spot. Out on the other side of this, you can see it's going to be aim assist with Zionful, Resla, and Gentrifying. We've seen a lot of plays coming out from them, specifically last week. A lot of very tricksy map knowledge, giving them some good positioning towards the late game.
I can't count the amount of times on one hand that Gentrifying was found in like between a rock and a hard place on purpose, like hiding as three teams fought around him. Like,
I mean, we've talked about before. Sometimes like
man.
people hide up inside of trees and pretend to be the tree. This guy can just find a way to be a rock in every single part of the map, and nobody seems to notice him. And RG's Frex, you can see, all by his lonesome, right on the edge of the circle. Not going to be able to get back over. Probably those banners are going to be a little bit too complicated to get, as he knows he's in a pretty rough predicament right now. Circle's not going to favor him, but not going to be too far away either.
Another difficult thing for Frex as well is, I mean, you look at the top right, 15 squads still remaining, 14 not including themselves, so gonna probably have to play for placement at this point, kind of sitting a little bit further back as we jump on with no-brainers, however we want to say it. We'll figure it out eventually by week 5. But either way, Hackulo and the boys have been consistent in that kind of top 10 spot. Right now sitting in 12th overall with 128 points. The next one in their way is Team Liquid at 133, so hoping to have a good performance this week to bump themselves up in the standings as they find Sentinels in a really rough spot as well. That's going to have to rotate out. Probably going to go and rotate the other way, but this is a long path. Could be very difficult.
And this is a prime example when we talk about mountains in play and how they create all of these choke points and just make it so difficult. Sentinel's going to have to burn a lot of their healing utility based off of this, not even opting to go for the first pass. Instead, going to continue their trek up around towards the north, and it's going to have to require a lot of meds to get back over into that position. Hopefully, it's going to be worth it, as I don't know if we're going to have anybody that's gatekeeping off of that position just yet. Looks like they do manage to make it over and through. Going to find some safety, but cost wasn't too terribly high, but not one that they were really wanting to take on.
Yeah, the nice thing about going to the second location as well is that first one actually wraps back to where the aggression was coming from. So take that second path is also going to make it easier rotation back inside. Plus, it also avoids the aggression that they're trying to deny in the first place. So good decision making there from the team, using that grapple and that mobility that the Pathfinder provides. Should be up relatively soon here again before they get into the next fight. But all these teams now starting to reconvene. Harvester looks like it's going to get a little dicey here in just a bit.
Not inside of circle. That means that a lot of people are going to be playing back away from this, so not easy path back over towards the safe zone. Trying to see if they can connect with any shots, but again, it's going to be ISMP finding themselves into a skirmish. They're the ones that are playing back over in this position that could have a couple of teams walking up back behind them. They have to be very cautious. You can see they can't really make a break back over towards the safe zone just yet because there's so many people that are taking the shots at them. Looks like they're going to try to dance around the outside of this one, try to get a kind of sneaky Wraith portal up onto a different point. Look at the fortifications around this, and this could buy them a lot more space. The ring is going to close back around onto that angle. It's just going to be the forefront point that's going to provide a lot of hassle, and that's where we saw the bullets coming from.
Need to be careful as well as Rogue just on the outside, able to apply some of that damage. So they know they're there. There's another team on them as well. So 2 bubbles, whoever's going to end up first, as well as they put out the thermite. So not able to even push forward if they need to. So far, good plays for both teams, but the bubble from SMP going to land just a little bit longer as the team re-engages. Shots coming out, one coming over the top, and getting popped a little bit by McCarthy, but they've also got Rogue on their backside. Need to be careful from all their angles as Crummy going to get founded spot out here, gets dropped. There was also that team with Blurry and everybody across the quarry into the corner, so shots and angles from every single direction, and SMP somehow able to keep all 3 members alive.
On the other side of this, Rogue's getting caught up into a little bit of a skirmish to manage to make a play on the outside. Keep in mind the fact that they are aware that somebody is playing in that high position. Looking back over, they were the aggressors on the outside of the fight. You can see that the team that aggressed back over towards ISMP was trying to go for a play off the point. Jumped back over the wall, but it was going to be Rogue that very quickly mopped it up. Now, ISMP going to have to make a very long rotation as the circle shifted about as hard away from them as it can. Only other problem inside of that is the fact that they're also going to have Rogue hanging out, potentially waiting to catch them the moment that they have to move.
Not only that, but it looks like Protectful has also disconnected. So even with that snipe down making the great rotation, he's going to end up playing across, and unfortunately for Protectful, he does get cut off first as he's not able to make any moves. So this team in a rough spot, even though you don't want to make any assumptions. They look like Rogue had their number from the start, so as soon as they get that entry frag, they're going to start moving in. And here it is, already inside the circle, the Mastiff with the shots. He ends up missing the second one, so still an opportunity as shots come down. There's another one, and there's a whole other team here. Just everybody in this spot just trying to fight left and right as Rogue, just trying to put everything they can. You have Snipe down up on the top. He's using those canisters for protection, trying to get the Watson ultimate down. There's so much utility and so many throwables coming out. But he's going to be able to find and weasel away his inside, and Sweet does sneak away. So at this point, just trying to get to his teammate, trying to get the revive on. As both team members are actually going to drop down, they're going to be able to cover this.
While it was a mess up top, Rogue is somehow going to be able to do damage control to get back into a halfway decent position. It's going to be aim assist that's going to have an early track. Getting ahead of Rogue's position might be able to hold them out depending on how everything moves. Look at this setup that we're seeing come out from everybody on aim assist. Looks like they're on a little bit of a mission themselves, but gonna try to go back over to the side of it, but good spray is gonna be coming out from only one mini. Connects on his shots off of the rotation on that. Gotta look back down onto it. Aim assist now finding themselves in a little bit of a troubled spot. Smile also playing around this location as well. It is starting to get very stacked very quick.
This is the team we're talking about that needs to have a big performance. They've had plenty of kills, but haven't been able to get the wins, and this is kind of that moment. The difference maker for them between being in the top and being in that kind of just almost getting there. So they need to be able to put it together here. Going to keep our eyes on Smile here as TLP in the area, having that high ground. This is the team that looks like gentrifying the boys we're trying to chase down as they're throwing a bunch of utility and a bunch of grenades out. But as soon as we jump back to Smile, you now look at where they're located. And interesting choice here.
Hopefully nobody else is in this position. Whenever you run down to here, it's just like, please God, let nobody be down here. And oh my God, it's going to be third-party shots coming in off of this. Gentrifying is going to go down as well. Designful has nowhere to go. It's going to be TLP still up on top, raining down death and destruction on all the teams below them. You got to be very careful as somehow they haven't managed to draw a lot of third-party attention just quite yet, and they've been the entire aggressors on this part of the circle.
Feels so bad for the team down below, but everybody's got easy pickings and they don't want to mess with each other. So what it looks like could be everybody kind of taking shots at each other, especially from the people in that compound. It's just been everybody focusing on this last team running across in the open. As just trying to get a couple shots down. They know it's Rogue. Shots coming down on Sweet, able to have to pop a med kit here as he checks his angles. Bobbing up and down.
It does have the safe zone, and that is a key factor and a very strong point as well. A lot of information that he'll be able to gather off of this is all the teams are now going to be forced to come back over towards their direction. TLP, you can see playing back over towards the north. Teams on every single vector around them, they have to be very cautious on how they play this. But you can see they can look down from this point, see if anybody goes down below them. The only problem with it is whenever you're playing down inside of this little dip, your vision on the outside is not the best. So you have to be super cautious about this one, as teams could find a quick approach and then just jump right on top of you.
Again, it's with that map knowledge. We already saw one team try to use that portal to get underneath there and kind of camp, because that's where the middle of the circle is. But again, these guys need to be very, very mindful that they can be spotted from every other location. And Rogue's already doing that. They're just trying to make sure, is anybody down here? Is Easy Kaka finding themselves on the receiving end of Gibraltar, all just trying to bob and weave and get through. Should be relatively safe, as they're going to throw an Arc Star and deal with the aggression. A shot comes across and Mastiff hits once, twice, 3 times and drops them down, but it doesn't matter. Strength in numbers, they're able to get the trade and ends up removing them all together.
See, Rogue now starting to move around, trying to figure out where everybody's going to be approaching from. 4 squads left at this point. TLP is going to be the northern aggressors back over towards Rogue's position. Looking back in, new circle is going to pop, and it's going to go back down towards the south. So it's going to be another chase coming out from TLP. They've got to find the right approach to work with this. So looking around on everything that's happening, with the positions coming into play, TLP's trying to get a little bit of a peek, but every time they do, they take a touch of damage. Luckily, it's just tick damage, enough to make it a little bit more hesitant to look forward.
Energy actually using Moore. So Moore was a player that used to be on that old Energy squad, actually subbing in for HRN right now. So a very talented player to have on the roster, known for his capabilities and his mechanics to shoot those guns. So coming out huge, peeking all those angles, and has a lot of information as well that can help out these players about familiar opponents. So
nice positioning coming out. You can see that it's going to be HRN aggressing back over towards the south. They do have the safe zone in their favor. TLP is still just trying to find some way to push up and forward that is safe. There's not a lot of good approaches, specifically based on the fact that we're so high up in the air right now, and there's all the lava down below them. No real easy path except for the direct approach to right in front of you. Rogue now creeping back in. We've seen the fact that they've taken several fights along the way. Playing back over, do have themselves a nice little bit of a cubby that they're playing back down inside of. But it looks like HRN has their number, has the angle for it. It's going to be Moore playing back over on the high side of it. Good shot's going to come out. That's going to be a quick tap back over, but Moore goes down inside of the exchange. Got to be very careful in this. Just going to go ahead and throw out a little bit more, seeing if maybe they can get the full-on flush with this, but there's nowhere really for HRN to go. Just going to have to charge back and around, as it's going to be TLP. This is how they decided to make their approach. They found the angle to play with, trying to rain back damage onto that Gibraltar. Going to hit a lot onto it, but you can see it's just Gibraltar shields all over the place, as TLP is bouncing from every part of this safe zone that they possibly can. There's so many down players around them, it feels like half of the circle is there. Make it all of the circle. TLP walks away with a solid victory.
For a team that's trying to promote in and do their best, you see what they're capable of. Just the ability to rotate and play it smart. They cover their angles. They make sure that engagement happens. And even though they may not be the ones to start it, they're the ones to finish it. So well played by them, waiting for that opportunity and then just committing. So when that extra goes down, you know that these guys are going to be trading. The damage is going to be going. And for these guys to come in and then just land those shots, it looked like the Gibraltar almost got away, but in the end, it wasn't there. And TLP, congrats on your victory.
It's all about waiting for the cascade of shots to come through. Once somebody makes a little bit too aggressive of a move into the safe zone, you hear the firefight go off, and you know that that's your opportunity. TLP was trapped back over towards the north, but whenever that firefight broke out, they knew that they could shift back down, run right along that wall, denying vision back over towards, I believe, the east of their position, and just start raining havoc on everybody that was already fighting.
Yeah, I think my favorite part too is the capabilities to use their throwables. I mean, you saw it as we take a look at the highlights here. At the very end, the decision to, rather than aggress too heavily, like obviously Rogue was there knocked, and you saw the shields come out, but he throws the utility and the throwables to apply pressure, but doesn't aggress on it. He doesn't want to give up his positioning. He still sits on that corner angle so he can bob and weave between the two. And that allows him to then cover still both an angle, still have cover in case he does get engaged upon. It's just decision-making like that that really separates some of these players. I mean, Energy was on the receiving end at first for what I thought was going to be the end of their demise, but players are able to get away. Same thing with Rogue here. Rogue was in a position where I thought, okay, you got 2 players down after this engagement. You guys are done, but they were able to sneak underneath, you know? But
I love that. Using the terrain to hide back behind it, it's so good.
Man.
So good.
That's what Snipe Down does best, man. When you need someone to clutch up, that's your guy.
there were so many good moments inside of this that just showcased map knowledge from these teams. The way that they played the circles, the way that they made their aggression plays to come through off of it. So looking back over towards the end game of that round, and we just saw so many different points whenever they knew that they were in a disadvantaged position and somehow managed to use the map towards their favor. We often talk about gunplay inside of Apex, but knowing how to traverse the map and use it as an extra tool for your victory is a pivotal factor in repeat success.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen on the back end. So at the end of that is what I'm talking about with Panders. The way that he's playing that fight is holding that corner peak so he can cover both angles if he needs to. But if he aggressors from either side, he can easily cut to that other direction and then use that for kind of lean peaks. So again, just having that map knowledge, that know-how, the ability, like you said, to traverse the map in the first place, to be able to chase down those characters, because movement is so important in this game, and it ends up playing out. I do like Rogue's decision on Sweet. Sweet had that devotion. There was a player with a shield. He put like 500 damage into that thing, but he knows the difference between first, second, and third really isn't that much. If I get a kill, that's 2 points. It makes up for it. So I'm okay with the flush, man. It's very smart on the fly.
Especially inside the alpha lobby. Every single point can very quickly capitalize you up, move you up inside that leaderboard. But see, look, I didn't make a whole bunch of bad jokes that time, and the server stayed stable, so I guess I have learned my lesson.
Well, we're going to put you in timeout for a little bit as we take a break here. This is the GLL Masters Summer for the Americas region. This is week 3. We just finished match 1. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our second game of World's Edge. Hey everybody, welcome back to GLL Masters Summer. Lawler here alongside Matchup, calling all the action for you guys today. We just wrapped up game number 1 here after a little bit of a server hiccup. We got the action down and out, and at the end, TLP takes the victory.
Again, solid map knowledge coming into that very end circle as we saw aggression capitalizing off of different points of the map, using terrain to their advantage. We also saw a very mean set of hard shifts into the side of where we kind of ended at that game. So a lot of people ending up having to chase the circle for quite a while.
Yeah, the northeast side by the train station, man, was just absolutely wild. But as we take a look here, we can see the results of game number 1. Rogue up on top because of the kills. 16 to boot.
16 kills. Rogue, calm it down. Massacring the world. We saw them getting in fight after fight as they made their way through there. TLP got the round. You can see only walking away with 2nd place.
Hey man, you want to talk about, remember at the beginning when we're like, hey Smile, there's a chance. If you guys keep getting kills, look what could happen. And the Rogue's like, hold my gun. And they just go out there and absolutely frag out and make up the points and then some. That is what I'd like to see. Maybe that is why I enjoyed that last game so much, because it didn't look like a single time we tuned in with somebody there was ever hesitation. Part of that goes credit to the spectator. The other part is the fact that these teams, when they saw aggression, they're like, yeah, we're going. There was no hesitation. I loved it.
We didn't get a chance to see a lot of HRN, but they do walk away in that 3rd place position. Also capitalizing off of a lot of kill points. MVP back behind that. TSM still managing to rack up point after point. Well, Rogue is going to walk away with a decent chunk inside of that, but they still had a massive lead moving into that 1st place position, but a 30-point catch-up could be enough for Rogue to really start doing damage to that overall leaderboard.
Another thing to care about on the back end is the bottom 5 teams: BKB, Team Liquid, Superior, Yukio, and Yeet Squad. These are the 5 teams. If you're in those bottom 5 spots, you'll get to put it down to the Bravo situation. So need to be careful of that as we're looking to see if these guys can bounce back. Team Superior was a team that found themselves in 5th place. So plenty of matches to go here. Day 3 as we just finished up game 1. So let's turn the focus now onto game 2. What out of the first match? I mean, obviously we talked about the positioning and the mobility that a lot of these guys have, but overall, Rogue didn't feel like they were playing all that aggressive. Like, yeah, they took some fights, but it didn't feel, quite honestly, like they were being 16 kills kind of aggressive.
Well, you do have to remember there was the fight where we saw the high ground placement, and they decided to jump into that one, and they had two of their members knocked inside of that skirmish, as there was a ton of teams that all just stacked up. So with that, they managed to creep back away, even having two of their members down, refresh, reset, and come back in. So it looked like that fight towards the mid game is where they managed to pick up a lot of those kills.
Gonna be curious to see if they can recreate that as we get ready to go into the match. Gonna have to remake the lobby here real quick just to make sure that everybody's up and loaded. So appreciate you guys staying patient with us.
I didn't make a joke this time. I didn't do it. It was not my fault.
It wasn't your fault. I know it wasn't your fault.
I was good. I was serious.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it ends up playing out. But yeah, I mean, I want to see that same kind of middle game. You know, if they have the opportunity to really rotate these guys, why not take some names along the way? Because their overwhelming pressure is what really gets them done. I mean, we talked about it, Snipe Down's capabilities on his own, sitting on those canisters and clutching up that fight. I mean, when you got capabilities like that and, you know, they're feeling it, which it looks like they are, their shots were hitting pretty well. Why not?
Well, it reminds me of last week whenever we had the overall Apex event, and you could hear Complexity when we jumped in with their comms. They were talking about the fact of, oh yeah, all we need is just 2 snipe downs and it would be the best team ever. And then they were like, why not just go for 3? Sometimes it feels like whenever you've got snipe down on your roster, he can perform so much for you.
Yeah, Snipe Down is kind of a beast and has been for a very long time. A lot of these guys just super talented when it comes to their capabilities. But again, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. As I think they can still hear us.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of robot whenever I hear you. I don't know if it's the same thing whenever I'm talking to you, but hopefully all the audio is coming through just fine. But we're trying to get everything set up on the remake, and look at that. See, I knew. They were like, oh my god, look at Matchum's ugly face. Let's just go ahead and throw this one up here. Protect all of our nice, safe viewers.
You talked about how you weren't the reason for like the server remake and stuff like that, and then instantly server goes kaput, and then we get our video feeds taken away.
I know. See, I can't win. I can't win, man. No matter what I do, if I make the jokes, it's still gonna happen. All right, but looks like we're back. Hey, look, no, I still need to hide, so that way I'm not.
I think they're just trying to like showcase the transition thing that came up, like that little slidey. That was sick. I love that transition.
Shout out to production for being super prepared for that, though. They were set and ready to go just in case something happened. As is everything given sign of the times right now, but it's always good to still continue to have the events. I know a lot of people complaining about ping, online situations, but I gotta get my esports fix. So shout out to the production crews that are doing so much work to make sure that we continue to get all of this great action.
I could talk about the other stuff going on after this. Either way, I know they've got like 3 hours of sleep over the next hour long, so it's going to be pretty scary for them, but I'm glad to see that they're doing what they can to provide us with a fantastic backing, as well as giving us a platform to cover Apex Legends for you guys. And we appreciate you guys all in the chat for staying with us as we're trying to get this stuff all figured out. But as we move forward, we're kind of just waiting on the lobby. But there's a lot of things to kind of cover here before we get into game 2. Obviously, second match on World's Edge. And it's going to be interesting to see on how it plays out. I don't want it to be a fluke. I want a lot of aggression, a lot of attack. These guys just playing really crazy where there is no hesitation in their engagements. But will they recreate it? I just don't want the Americans to let me down.
Well, we see a lot of the action being placed back over towards the mid game specifically. That's where North America likes to make their fights known. We see a little. You were talking earlier about EU. They tend to play it a little bit further out, try to wait as long as they can to really take those fights. Whereas mid-game action is a key component of North America.
Oh, looks like the game is starting. Hopefully, we get it stabilizing and running clean. So, gonna drop into the action here in just a bit. So again, as we stated, can't say it enough. We appreciate you guys in chat being patient and tuning in with us as we kind of figure this all out. But at the end of the day, we've got a whole lot of matches to go here as we're entering game number 2 here in just a bit on World's Edge. And I think the most exciting thing about it is we are starting to see teams hit their groove. You know, when we first started, we're playing like peekaboo with chat at this point, man. But
hey, gotta have fun where you can. It's just you. It's not me. They said it's you. That's specifically what that one means. No,
it's me. No, what's happening? What's happening? I was kidding, peekaboo. What's happening? Oh,
that is.
Man.
Oh, some days they just be like this.
Oh, Matchum, thank you for being a part of this with me and going through whatever it is that we are. Either way, I'm glad we're able to be lightheaded or lighthearted about it. I'm getting lightheaded because I'm laughing so much.
Hey, it's all about having the fun at any given time. That's why we all get involved inside of this. Is like we all care about the games. We all have a lot of fun with them. And I mean, I will gladly sit around and make jokes to my heart's content. But oh, hey, look, looks like we're already straight up and in the action, getting everything situated, popping in on TLP, our last round winners. Got a lot of. It looks like they're fairly separated off of their drop, as you can see that there's not even another member in sight on the minimap.
No, there's actually been some teams that actually do this in more open kind of pub stompy games just because they want to spread out and they have the capabilities of their teammates to be like, all right, we spread out the loot. We're comfortable that all of our players can get away. But I think it's something that you're actually starting to see out of some of the teams that have that really aggressive playstyle. I mean, they are one of the few rosters that run a crypto still. So maybe that capability to spread it out, they can find people sooner. And with that information, they're going to be able to get some kills. But at this point, I know what you're oohing and on about, that thermal station circle.
Yes, that's the type of circle I like, because that means the fact that there's going to be very hard rotations coming in, specifically in these early circles, and that's where all the fun is going to be happening at. See, a couple of shots going to be coming through is going to be Free Smoke finding themselves with already one member down. A quick exchange going back and forth. See, Claim does go down and get flushed. Rambo and Odd Freestyle trying to make a play back around over this. Odd Freestyle with a little bit closer of position, but is going to get spotted out. Now it's all back over towards Rambo. Can he live up to his namesake? And no, he cannot, as they get dropped out and first team to get up.
Really well played by EasyCaca, bobbing and weaving between those. I mean, you look at how little of health Reflex has, and that could have been the difference maker, but unfortunately for the other team, they are going to be the ones first eliminated, and Reflex is just going to back out. Knows that there could still be aggression there, needs to find some hard cover, some ammo, literally anything, because he is not in a good situation.
I like the fights that are coming out from EasyCaca, especially whenever we see new people step up into the lobby. Already. They sometimes are very hesitant and they're afraid to take fights because they're like, oh my god, we're playing against all these big, strong, powerful teams that we've been watching for so long. Right. EasyCaca just comes in and they're like, nah, we can take the fight. Let's go for this. Let's try to pick up the kill points. Let's be aggressive and make sure that everybody knows that they have to be a little bit wary of us.
Yeah, that kind of indecisiveness as well is what makes them lose the fight in the first place. If they just come in and play confidently, you can see how overwhelming it actually catches some of these high-level teams off guard. So EasyCaca doing a fantastic job, like we talked about, being very decisive, making the play to go for the frag, and it's been paying off. So again, rewarded for their kills. I mean, you're talking if they wipe that squad, that's 6 already on the board for them. It's equivalent to ending in like top 6.
TSM already in rotation, making their way back down towards the south, inside the first safe zone ring, but uncertain if they know where the second one is just quite yet. Being TSM, I'm willing to bet that they already know what's going on. NRG is going to be in a very similar location to this, so it has to be cautious, as it could be TSM coming up back behind them. MVP has opted instead, playing back around the tunnels, going for the pass in between the mountains, seeing maybe they can find themselves a little bit safer of an approach into the zone.
As much as I want it to be safe, it usually ends up not being that way. A lot of these guys try to avoid these positions unless it is an early rotation, which I think they are doing, so they should be relatively good. They do have a vault key as well, so their effort's going to be rewarded, and some teams actually bait this as well. So not in this circumstance, they're just going to get their loot and get on out. So Superior rewarded handedly and should be ready to take any fight they come across.
Yeah, they are set and ready to scrap right now. Making their way back over towards that next circle. You can see a very little fear as they make their approach. TSM finding themselves into a little bit of a fight, and it's going to be Reps trying to get a couple of shots back over, but here comes Briley coming back over on their approach for this. Looking back down, it looks like they've already had enemies run away from their position, jumping back down in the lava. I couldn't quite tell, but it looks like that might be what they're after. HRN playing back around the outside. This one might have a little bit of vision what's going on, but looks like they're trying to set up for a potential setup of their own, as they're just going to continue to make their way back over towards the northern edge.
Yeah, it was HRN that ended up being caught out by TSM, I think it was, on the back end. So a couple shots coming in on Urias, who needs to back off as well. He's getting tagged from the side. He will drop that bubble and should be able to have enough to Phoenix kit, but still needs to be careful if they choose to aggress. But going to be
how
just fine here and back on top.
Yeah, it looks like they've opted playing back down the low ground. Going to go ahead and surrender the high ground back over towards TSM, which has its own set of advantages just because of the fact that you can play off of different points. And a lot of times as people make their approach into this site, you can see that they look back over and they immediately look across. With the high ground coming into play, that's usually where most people tend to glance and their attention gets drawn to. So when you do play low, you might not be able to get the same kills, but sometimes you miss out on a little bit of aggression and gives you a little bit easier chance to rotate.
Must be nice for drop. Turns the corner and finds 2 shield batteries, so gonna snipe those up real quick. So checking their angles. They do get some hard cover here and trying to spread out that positioning, but they got Designful and Aim Assist gentrifying right around the corner. Didn't even recognize that they're up top, so put some damage down. Designful's going to try to heal up on this corner. This Thermite's coming out trying to break down these doors, so they're going to have to take this fight whether they want to or not. They have them in a really tough spot. Curious to see how much throwables the team aggressing and Rogue has. A snipe down there with the R99. Seen what he can do with it before as Rogue Sweet takes the corner and just pops Designful in the chest. 119 damage. And is going to clean up the fight as Rogue now makes this their home.
And back over, they've got so much vision to play in. They can kind of be the deciders of everything that's happening back over towards the west. Aim Assist now playing with just gentrifying the last person up and alive, trying to get the meds back over. Has to be very cautious as he's wanting to make his way forward on this. See the fact that he still has 1 banner to recover, but did manage to pick up 1 of them. Got a couple of options if he does want to try to go for res, but at this stage of the game, if you try to call in that shuttle, it could be catastrophe as it reveals your position, and a lot of teams can focus in on you very quickly.
At the same time, if he's the last one left and he knows there's a lot of teams nearby, that may be what he wants. Allow the ability for these guys to kind of weed each other out while they pick up the pieces. So again, for some of these teams playing placement, still 16 teams left. And we've got roughly 3 or 4 that still have to rotate as Rogue dropped on the backside, getting lasered. He's going to have his teams kind of rotate back through and try to apply some help. But there's a bunch of teams over to the east that they need to be careful of. The shot's raining out. And they're going to move back to that house that they claimed.
Gonna have to go for the reposition back over towards the safety of the home that they have already fortified, realizing the fact that any aggressive movement on the outside could be problematic. Instead, trying to catch people making their own rotations. Flicks a little bit of damage onto it, but again, it's gonna be the third party back over towards the right side, forcing him back off to a different position to play from. Rogue still managing to stay alive, but the mid game seems to be where Rogue is starting to get more and more aggressed on. They're gonna have a lot of people around them, see if maybe they can pick up a couple more kill points based off of it.
Yeah, just seeing Snipe down, kind of check multiple positions. Surprised he's actually not healing up with those shield cells. He's got 14 of them to use, and is still a little bit low. But as he looks back and forth with the team, I think that's my favorite thing about him. He's not afraid to kind of retreat back, take a different angle of approach, and then come back at it. So you saw him do that multiple times as he comes out the house, attacks from high, attacks from the left-hand side, and then eventually just peeks for information. Needs to be careful, though, as Energy is on their backside trying to put some damage down as they end up finally cleaning up Petty Boss and the rest of his crew. So after finally healing up, was kind of interested to see why it wasn't happening. They finally aggress, they overwhelm, and Rogue continues to have dominance.
This is what we talk about when we're talking about territory control. When you have the vision, whenever you have the sight lines, you can rein in a lot of death and force everybody else to play based off of how you want them to move. You can really force out a lot of different rotations as, oh, hey, let's go ahead and get a little bit of crypto information as it's doing a little bit of a scan around the horizon, seeing if maybe they can spot out anybody. Most people kind of hunkered down at this point, not going to get a lot out of it, though.
Checking out how people are going to be rotating. So we got roughly 3 or 4 teams on the eastern side of Tree. Need to be careful with that. We still got a team all the way out in the circle. Not sure what those guys are doing on the northeast of Sorting Factory, but hopefully they figure it out.
Well, going to go ahead and opt in for a little bit more crypto information. They're going to have to make a push back down towards the south, and they can see that there's already a couple of teams set up. I like this, pointing out the fact that, hey, here's a couple of fences. We know that somebody's going to be around this point. Just go ahead and start taking down everything that could potentially bar your path as you make your approach in. So, NRG is starting to make a little bit of a path back along those locations, but it's going to be TLP that's continuing to get an idea on what's happening around them.
So surprising from TLP, obviously with most teams, is they know there's a team there with that crypto and scout ahead, so they'd avoid the fight, but TLP has other plans. This is NRG that they're pushing up against, and they just decide, you know what, send the EMP, push it, and we'll see what happens. And at this point, they're not backing off, so NRG now, with all this noise, has to be caught in between 2 different teams, and it could be dangerous. As for TLP, they're going to need to get into the zone quickly, as TSM here already at the west side here of Thermal Station. Got a Rogue over to the other house.
I was going to say, this is right around where we saw Rogue at, so if you walk into this sector of the circle, it's gonna suck for you. Not sure if we've seen a Rogue reposition.
Yeah, without saying it lightly, it's gonna suck. Like, there's no really easy way to say it, is there? Still engaging on this fight, huh? TLP being a nuisance, and I kind of like it.
Taking a couple of shots back over. NRG still just trying to hold defensive line. They know that this safe zone is back behind them. About 10 seconds before it starts to collapse. And I think this is why we were seeing earlier aggressions coming out from TLP. They wanted to try to make a path back over through that choke point. That way they didn't have somebody come up back behind them. Instead, they're just going to say discretion's a better part of valor, rotate back over towards the east, and maybe try to push their way through a different choke point.
Yeah, at this point, they're just trying to make sure that they're in the circle, and this actually will buy them some time to make a decision. So the benefit of having a Wraith and a Pathfinder, obviously plenty of movement that they can take, but I assume them to sit this, kind of see how it plays out, and then either with their late rotation, take that Wraith portal and kind of work their way in. So not too worried about them. Luckily for them, there is nobody on the north side either, and if they really want to, they could take the train.
Yeah, but train always an option at this stage. You got to be very careful with it. You can see that it's going to be new brainers. Get a little bit of trouble coming their way. Instead, just going to retreat all the way back up, try to get a little bit of safety, deny sight lines back over. Node making an approach back over from the east as everybody is just slowly and steadily being funneled back towards each other. Still have 14 squads up and going, 40 people alive, but it's starting to get to where everybody is within touching distance of each other and trying to inflict as much damage as possible. New brainers
here on the backside. Oh, in sync. Look at us.
I know. Think the exact same now. Look, this is what all of this has brought us together. We now have the exact same brain moving forward.
Something anime. I think that's.
There you go. See, you're already thinking exactly like me.
Either way, pretty good fight out here by HRN and New Brainers. Obviously, HRN using more, so something to be considerate of as Gibraltar ultimate raining down. Not able to pick anybody up. They do get some pretty good damage here, but I think the big benefit here of having this Watson is if someone tries to throw that utility or return fire on that, but just back up against this pillar, trying to climb up top, see if they can get a different angle.
Is that an Apex totem? They're all just kind of stacked up on top of each other, lined up. Back over towards the edge of the circle,
yeah, man,
trying to get a little bit more
you can, all right?
Yeah, I mean, just push as hard as you can. Try to get. I mean, Gibraltar's a pretty big dude. You got to take all the effort to get him up that hillside.
You know the best part? Team Liquid's on the outside here, just watching it develop.
I'm kind of curious if they were watching that the whole time, just like, no, let's see if they can manage to stack it together. And New Brainer's managing to inflict a lot of damage back over towards the defense, but they're gonna need to move here. You got about a minute to work with, so go ahead and get a little bit of damage off as they can in here. We've talked about it beforehand, the Wraith Portal providing a lot of opportunity for reposition for your team.
Brainers need to be careful, though, as they're trying to finish off this last player, but they also need to be careful around the corner that there was a player that he ends up spotting out down below. But Team Liquid was in the area as well, so making a lot of noise could be an opportunity, but again, that could also bait Team Liquid. There wasn't a whole lot of damage that was being done, so need to be careful as BKB and the kill feed ends up dropping down a player from NRG.
Team Liquid making an approach where we've been seeing so much action happening back over towards the east. Keep in mind, as teams keep funneling back down towards this position, we're going to start having a lot of sightline issues, specifically as you make the approach. You can see that's why some hesitation is coming out, as they know that they're going to be walking into open fields and open areas. There are a couple of buildings to go through, but every single time you have to bounce between them, you have to assume that complex is already going to be taken, or somebody's going to be looking your direction to take long-range shot.
On board with the Eat Squad, also trying to rotate in here to Thermal Station. A really fun area to actually fight as shots coming down from New Brainers. They were able to rotate through on the eastern side and get that high ground. So at this point, just trying to watch the flanks. They actually end up spotting one out as damage just comes down. 100 damage cracks the shield, but not able to finish it off for Mercy. He's going to rotate back to the high ground. And for Liquid, being caught this tunnel is a very dangerous spot. Only one place to go.
You got to hope that everybody is already fighting somehow, and maybe you can creep up behind them, get a couple of shots into them as they're making their approach towards the safe zone. NRG still kind of playing around the outside of this one, in no inherent rush to make their way back down, but you can see the rings coming up back behind him. No options to really work with. New Brainers finding themselves in yet another fight, just harassing, dancing back and forth in between the Gibraltar shield, so going to be able to get away from that one, buying more space, and Lip didn't even take that much damage out of it either.
No, really good play. Hakulo did a great job of utilizing that shield, going back and forth between the two, and it ate a majority of the shots. But at the same time, they're attacking from multiple angles. Not only is their team attacking from the direct spot, but, I mean, the person on the back end is just getting free hits. So, again, good coordinated attack here from my New Brainers. They've been a team that has been slowly gaining traction throughout the weeks. And they win another fight here. Sentinels on the back end side, just kind of overseeing this corner. Seeing if they can
Such a
get
good
a
play.
couple shots on. Yeah, with that wingman, all he needs to do is land a couple. It could change the tide of a fight.
They're in such a strong defensive position right now to make an approach back over towards them. You can see how wide out in the open it is. They've got so much control. They can harass everybody. Meanwhile, back down in the low ground positions, you can see it's MVP trying to figure out, okay, how are we wanting to make plays around this? Looks like they've just opted going closer towards the center of the circle, playing low, hoping that everybody is going to be caught up in the fights up above them.
Now, fortunate for BKB, they did have 2 knocks on Energy, but it looks like they were able to get both Rocker and Affin back up. So Energy, what was down 2, is now full strong again as Eat Squad on the top side. Both these teams pressuring each other. The grenades coming by, ends up destroying the door, but no damage done. So just watching their angles at this point. Don't have to push out just yet. Gonna have about 45 seconds. At this point, just trying to delay the inevitable.
Yeah, because this is going to be an aggressive push. Dude jump right back down. Good beam shots coming out direct onto this. Yeet Squad trying to capitalize off the damage that they got, and it's just a quick run in. Very quickly, Nicewig is going to go down. Six trying to get something out of it. Bowser having to play back around the outside of this, and while they wanted that fight, it's turning problematic for them very quickly. NRG's trying to back out and away from this one, having to dodge a lot of the damage. Again, finding himself in a little bit of troubled spot as Frex is going to go down as well.
Scary thing is, as he was running by with that phase shift, there's another player inside, so have to be careful as they end up spotting another team over to the west. So we're starting to see a lot of these squads now, 8 only remaining as TSM knocks down yet another one. End up getting Sentinels on the back end.
TSM continually making it to the end game, game after game. Rogue off to the side of him as well as the hunt for first still continues. TSM still holding on to it, but Rogue is trying their best to cling to every single point that they can to climb up back behind them and make it a fight for first. The circle is going to be pretty close to location. Ziploc bags finding themselves in a fight right along the edge of the ring. Repositions back out and away, but it's going to be shots off the distance, going to be able to take them down as well. Rogue starting to make their run back over towards it. Do have a little bit of a corner play from it, and you can see instantly start setting up their defenses.
Really smart play as well. Obviously trying to utilize as much utility as they can late game, but may not even have a chance to use it as a big shot from the Kraber from TSM drops one down. Abreleli, the one I would want least to have that if I was on the other team. As he's popping shots here and there, he's going to switch over to the R99. Looks like Imperial Hal up close and personal as well with the Kraber. As just trying to turn the corner, is going to put some damage down, see if they can be aggressive. All 3 players come in and it pays off. That is the TSM coordination I've been waiting to see for weeks.
That dance around the outside, drawing out attention, and then shifting it back into sliding shotgun blast was a pivotal point inside of that fight. TSM stepping up, not afraid to take anybody on towards the late game. We've got 4 squads left, 10 people up and alive, and you can see BKB on their last member right now. Going to have to do a pretty hard run back down towards the south, and it is going to be pretty wide out in the open. Going to have to be very cautious. Meanwhile, New Brainer still playing back over towards the east. They're going to do a run and jump back over and through the lava. Looks like they're just going to try to run this one in right over here next to this rock cropping and try to use that as their new pivot position.
Really good spot here by Hakulo. He's going to immediately push out to the other side and see if he can get some information, and he does. R99 trade down on front. 4 squads remaining, 10 players left. Shots coming from the top side. Mercy hasn't pushed over yet. Has a good vantage point for his team, so love the positioning here. One staying back, applying some pressure from a higher angle, while the other 2 can use that information to push in close, and you're seeing just that. Shots coming out from Mercy. Tricky end up coming in and getting knocked for his efforts. But a ton of shots coming down just a little bit behind, but switch to the Mastiff, and it's a 1v2, and unfortunately, Aguilo is going to get dropped down as TSM here still on the backside as well. All these teams converging, TSM on top, but need to be careful. A bunch of people on their other angles as he removes another one. Trying to be careful. The Watson ultimate removes that, so passive regeneration gone. As Thermite's going to try to drop that down, has plenty of utility, absolutely knocking him. And the benefit of the Thermite is all those ticks tell him exactly where he's at. He ends up cracking the shield. Is he going to ingress on this?
See, playing back down in the low point provided safety for a while, but TSM now knows they're there. They're on the hunt, just chasing them down back behind it, using the only utility that they already had set up. TSM just runs that one right through. 3 squads left, and it's going to be TSM taking firm control over the circles. You can see playing back over towards the north, denying everybody's rotation in play as third-party fights are happening. They're just capitalizing on everything, just jumping and chasing it down. TSM walks away with the victory.
Well played by TSM. We saw the rotation early into that house. Initially, that was Rogue. Rogue was in that house first, and then they ended up pushing and aggressing another team and ended up moving to the one next to them, which TSM is like, yeah, you move out, we'll gladly take rent. So they go in there, they start applying that aggression, and then from there, it's the way that they utilize that utility like you're talking about. You're talking about the previous setup, using the high ground, not afraid to take fights. That is the TSM I want to see. When Imperial Hell is able to move across and catch everybody's attention, the other two just come over the top. It also helps when Abrelli hits you with a Kraber for the face for 300 plus damage. But besides that, TSM, that is what I want to see. This is why I enjoy the Americas lobbies so much.
I know. I just love to see the way that these guys play. I mean, we talk about the fact that they've got aggression, but you have to be aware it's always with intent. It's just not mindlessly running around. These guys know that they can take fights, and they have no fear whenever they step into it. New Brainers was involved in action for what felt like the entirety of this round. Once we saw it switching back over, you can see it's just going to be popping off all over the place inside of our recap.
Yeah, shots left and right, and excuse me, nice Big had the right idea here. You know, he was low on shields, and rather than being passive, he commits with the team, and that's what you want. So he slides in, he ends up getting a 1-for-1 trade on the Gibraltar, and they ended up getting the fight almost, but Energy rotating out just finds another team in TSM. Like, it was just non-stop one after another. But this is the positioning. TSM has the back end, they have circled, they're able to just kind of watch these evolve, and BKB getting involved here too. BKB had a lot of opportunities to actually remove Energy early, but two players ended up getting revived, and then just one thing after another. TSM really stepping up and going back to what we know them for. Aggressive, really good teamwork and coordination, and high kill games. Because I'm excited to see how many they ended up with.
Well, Rogue has been on the hunt trying to catch up to TSM, but TSM stacking up a ton of kills and getting a round win is only going to make it harder for them. Rogue, we saw being very active inside the last game, walking away with massive 16 kills. I feel like we could see another high kill game coming out from either one of them, as they were caught up in a lot of fights moving into these later stages of the round.
Not going to be easy, but well done by TSM. Able to bounce back after kind of a rough first game. Obviously, they ended up top 8, but for TSM, that's not good enough. So step up huge here, get a lot of kills, and show to Rogue that they can do it as well. But with that said, guys, we're going to take a quick break here for the GLL Masters Summer, the Americas region, for week number 3. When we come back, we've got our third and final game here on World's Edge. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere. This is GLL Masters Summer. Hey everybody, welcome back to the GLL Masters Summer. Lawler here alongside Matchroom calling all the action. We just finished up game number 2 here for week number 3. I know I threw a lot of numbers at you, and hopefully Matchroom can make sense of them.
Oh, you're asking the dyslexic to make sense of all of the numbers.
Actually,
all right,
oh no, I'm so sorry.
I know, I really am. Why are you doing this to
know.
me? All right, so let's just go ahead and hopefully we're going to get the leaderboard. Thank you for saving me, production. All right, it's going to be TSM
It's
walking
even
away
more
with
numbers, bro. Look out.
points. No, but see, they're all listed here, so I can get them right.
Oh.
That's what really matters.
My sister's dyslexic. I don't know like how it actually works out. I just know things kind of start swapping and stuff. So as long as it's like organized like this, you're good.
Just imagine your brain is like one of those magic eye posters, and that's the easiest description I can say. Numbers just like to bounce around and go where they want to. So we got 44 points coming up from TSM. New Brainers back behind that with 34. Tying them out is going to be BKB, and then Rogue tailing it out with 22 points back behind that. Means that TSM is going to get more points off of it, but big points to look at inside of this is going to be Easy Katka coming in, MVP, Ziploc bags as well. BNC Sentinel starting to slip back down there, picking up 8, as well as Eye Shining Muffins Protectful, rounding out our top 10.
Absolutely loving what they're doing, though. I mean, you look at Easy Kaka, prime example, 0 placement points, but with 6 kills and 12 points, they bumped themselves into 7th. So, again, we talk about the kills incentive and how aggressive these guys are playing. And even though TSM gets the placement points and the kills, not too far behind his no-brainers or new-brainers, however we want to say it. And doing a great job there. As we take a look at the Alpha leaderboard overall, you can see Rogue still on top, though. That first game really helped them out here after match 14. So, kind of looking at those bottom 5, that's what we have our eyes on until we get the results all together. But Yeet Squad, Unknown, Team Liquid, Superior, and Yukio, the big thing that I'm paying attention to is Liquid. We didn't talk too much about. They were pretty passive that last game.
We haven't had a chance to really deep dive too much into them as they find themselves playing in a much more, as you said, passive role. Not a lot of big skirmishes have been coming back over their way. And look back over onto it, no kills to speak of so far and only 2 placement points to work with. That is slightly troubling for them, but we're only about a third the way through, right? Actually, we are a third the way through from this point forward. I'm still drawing my eye back over towards Rogue and TSM, 4 points separating them out, and then a massive drop-off of 22 points back behind them to the closest team for the day.
On the other side, and more of a positive, obviously Energy has found themselves kind of in the middle of the pack, lower middle of the pack for the leaderboard. And here you're seeing a little bit different involvement, and I actually love to see that. I think HRN as well, the fact that they're, I think, is something that needs to be noted, because HRN is a team that we always talked about, like, they're good and they have those moments, but what's going to take them to that next level? And with the sub of Moore, I think that could be it. I think his leadership and his game sense and knowledge of being on one of the top teams is really helping out.
Looks like we are already set and ready to go, make our way back inside a map. This is going to be our last time seeing this map for the day. No remakes, please, no remakes. So that way we can go ahead and see this one out and switch over back towards Kings Canyon. But we got World's Edge that we're going to be looking at, as TSM is going to be who we're following through. I get a feeling we know where they're going to drop at, because they always like to drop the same place.
Yep, going over to the tried and true. And part of the reason why, a whole lot of loot to go with it. It's part of the reason why TSM is able to play the way they do. So, back in action here. And the first thing on the board, waiting 0 seconds to figure it out. Aberlele is going to give us where the circle is next. And something you should probably be happy about. Getting involved by Thermal Station again.
Did you like Thermal Station? Because it looks like we're going to be going back down towards Thermal Station. But although we still have Mirage Voyage inside of it as well, center post up a little bit towards the north of Thermal, so likely where we're going to be seeing it. All things considered, we have been seeing some hard shifts, so still a possibility, but it'd be nice to see a couple of the nice terrain points throughout the map, other than just Thermal yet again.
Yep, a little bit of action already happening north of Lava City here, with Yeet Squad being on the receiving end. This week was able to get revived, so the whole squad available, but the difficulty here is still struggling to find some shields and other various items, so probably going to try to avoid the fights. Might be an option for Superior. Looks like Superior was the one nearby and wanting to aggress here, as they're already checking all the angles, both in the second and first floor of multiple buildings. So just trying to find out where they rotated. They are spotted out.
There's a lot of connect. There's a lot of different points that you can hide around this location. That's why we've seen Yeet Squad be able to play a little bit of damage control and reposition off onto it. So going back over towards the high ground, you can see just trying to call out as they think the rotation is going to be coming. They're going to get a couple of shots thrown on from pretty close. Nice connecting shots back over coming out from Bowser. Going to go ahead and take down the armor off of it. So wouldn't be surprised if we see a quick retreat off of this. But Yeet Squad doesn't look like they're wanting to play it aggressive and might just let them go. Superior still glancing back up that direction though.
Yeah, interesting point here too, especially with that entry damage. They're just holding their positioning. The scary thing about that is, like, even though you are returning fire, it's more so about the information and knowing where to peek next or where to look for. And when you've only spotted one player, you think you'd want to also change that situation. But again, they may not be able to. It might possibly be surrounded. So Yeet Squad kind of just rotating through, seeing what they can find. Finally, Nicewig is going to get some armor. I'm sure he's super happy about that one. Might be able to actually take a trade this time.
Should be noted as well, with the stall coming out with these two teams fighting, they are not inside the next safe zone. So that's why you see Superior already opting and saying, okay, look, this fight is not worth it. We've got the tools to work with. We'll try to see if we can find something else later. When you get caught up in these fights in the early game, you have to be super careful whenever there's a hardship very far away from you. I can't talk about circles right now, as it looks like we got Easy Katka again involved in early game fights. Already have one of their members down. Have to be super careful. Already losing a second. Rambo looking back over onto this one. Got to figure out how he's going to be able to protect his teammates, doing a little bit of dance around the box. There's the fact that he might have to play this one a little bit more safe. Trying to see if maybe he can flank back around. Goes for the slide, manages to pick it up, and should be able to get the res back over onto Odd Freestyle as well.
Really,
oh no!
Free smoke, but there's another team involved. Rambo with literally a sliver of health. Gonna have to back up. He's gonna use that caustic trap to put down, and hopefully should be able to heal here. The difficulty though is both his teammates now officially removed and losing out on some of the health as he just starts firing blindly. Not sure.
A little bit of nerves kicking off there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spooky Ghost or something that came up and said boo next to him. And he gets removed. Unfortunate. Wasn't able to get a heal off that entire time. Actually surprised that he left the building, especially with those traps down.
TSM back over in rotation, and yeah, I don't know. It feels like maybe he was getting fed information back over from the down teammate saying, hey, you can make a play back over this direction, but didn't have enough information to work with. Everything as they made their approach. HRN starting to get control back over towards the choke points. Great use of Watson right now. Just trying to make sure it's going to be very difficult for anybody that tries to push back up along this direction.
The reach on those fences is absolutely ridiculous. It's so long.
It really is. Like, you think that it's going to stop at some point, but it just keeps going.
Like, how strong is the electricity in those things? That they can beam, like, a solid 50 meters.
Willing to bet.
Where can I buy them?
Still not good enough to charge a cell phone for a long enough period of time to run through the entirety of the day.
Man, that's probably your cell phone's fault, if I'm being honest.
And probably how much I use my cell phone, too. But still, the joke still stands. I stand behind it. MVP looking like they may have spotted somebody out. Making their approach back over is doing a couple of aggressive pings back off on the angle. And yep, going to take a couple of shots. Not going to connect with a lot, but looks like they might be thinking about getting out of this position as a lot of damage is coming back their way.
MVP just going to rotate the other way, and smart choice by Pop out here. Rather than going up the front side, he's ended up going to kind of rotate back towards the team and then play the underside. So kind of provides a little bit of extra cover for free using that terrain rather than kind of putting himself out in position when he climbs up. So good decision making, even though it's a little bit of a delay. Still the better route altogether as we find energy inside, pretty low on health. So going to try to heal up here and get nice and healthy before they take this next engagement. But either way, pretty solid building, and with Watson ultimate down, they don't really need to push. Can take this passively.
I like the placement of the Watson ultimate right now. It gives it a lot of defense based off of the positioning on it, and you can see you can kind of bounce back and forth between this, look back over in between the stairs, giving yourself a little bit more space to work with. So NRG got themselves a nice little home for now, as not a lot of teams aggressing on their location yet. The only downside to the way that they're playing this right now is they don't have a lot of information on everything that's going on. That's why you keep seeing Rocker having to peek back out and see if anybody might be playing along this path. Rogue got themselves a couple of nice toys to work with. Looks like they're not going to choose to aggress back over towards them because that was kind of the angle that they were thinking about going for.
Rogue here going to rotate as well relatively early. TSM, the other team that was kind of on the northeast side of this, that was rotating early as well. So again, the big dogs are going to be the ones moving into position as quickly as possible as they do spot one out. Scary thing for the other team, though, is it looks like one of them has a Kraber. So you want to talk about the ability to put that early aggression on and then move in, as Snapdown's going to back off a little bit, getting hit with the charge rifle. Just
enough to kind of peek back around. You can still see the confidence coming into play. Back over here on Mirage Voyage, you can see it's going to be ISMP. They've got a lot of vision to work with, but they have to be careful, as whenever you end up with this much of, I guess, control over the area, you have to be very careful to not get locked into tunnel vision and suddenly have a team just pop up back behind you. That's why I like the kind of setup that they're running right now, looking off on every single angle they can.
Yeah, a lot of that comes into 2 points. Number one, you want to make sure you're not getting flanked by somebody else. And the difficulty is because there's so many entry points into that, it's almost impossible to watch everything. The other side of it, too, is they are down a player. So they have to make sure they watch all their angles, and they're already at a disadvantage. But the benefit of having high ground and all those vantage points is they can play it. A lot of it comes down to communication and trust in your teammates. So glad to see that they're still taking advantage of the opportunities that are presenting themselves rather than playing shy and scared and kind of all tunneled up, as Casper gets chunked for quite a bit.
Yeah, Liquid trying to do a little bit of a look around, see if maybe they can take a couple of shots, end up being on the receiving end of it instead. HRN playing back off on location. You can see that got a couple of neighbors that are all kind of setting up along this point, is where we saw a lot of action happening inside the last game. It looks like BKB is going to go ahead and try to set up their fortifications up here. Thinking of maybe, hopefully they don't have the same thing that happened last time, as a ton of teams just dropped in onto this, but it looks like New Brainer said, yeah, hey, maybe I do want this spot, as I'm starting to feel this location is cursed for whoever claims it first.
Good aggression coming out from New Brainer, is able to pick it up on the back end, so a lot of loot to work with. Still not in the circle, though. Need to be careful as well, as that fence is not theirs, but they should know, as they heard a couple shots coming out, that there is people still to the south, so need to be careful with grabbing this loot, as they look pretty well kitted.
Got a slippery slope in front of them. A lot of teams already making back over towards the safe zone, but no inherent rush right now. Got about 2 minutes to work with. 17 squads up and active, 51 people still alive. So New Brainer's using this opportunity and those walls to get a little bit more vision. Anytime you can do a peek around, specifically on terrain points, it's going to give you so much more of a benefit. Whenever you're going for these sniper peeks, if you can just find a rock to kind of creep up around, you can see sometimes the bullets drop just enough to give you the protection. So that way, the only way you can be taken down is with the headshot.
A lot of information being getting out for Sentinels here, but we're going to jump over to TLP. Winners from game number 1. Panders does find himself down in a really tough spot in train station.
Yeah, Yukio up above. We can see how they're wanting to play this one out. Pretty close towards the circle right now. And trying to see if maybe they can get a little bit more control over what's happening around them. Panthers starting to creep back over. Looks like they're going to be able to get the res. Pretty safe location, all things considered. Now it's just a matter of trying to see if they can get a feel for what all is happening around them and find out exactly how the team's moving up.
I love this so much. So with that crypto, using that ultimate accelerant to get his ability back up, can play that drone, and if they really want to, they can increase it with the EMP. So they do that. They have the ability to engage on Yukio and possibly can tank this fight into their favor. But with having that low ground, it's a really tough push.
I also like the fact that they're going for the res directly below them, so it denies all type of vision. If Yukio is wanting to go for any type of play on this, they're going to have to leave the safety of their very high-rise home right now. And if that is the case, they can find themselves very quickly third-partied. So now Yukio just has to let the res come through, because any option to make an aggressive play back down there could come back to bite them.
The thing I'm paying attention to is the minimal ammo here on Death Call. Only one extra in the chamber for that flatline, so not a whole lot to work with. Got to make his stuff count as we see a team sneaking their way into the zone. But TLP looks like they might be the aggressor here. And the timing is there. Here comes the MP. He's getting bumped off. He can't get up.
I like it. Trying to come up through there. They're going to see the Wraith Portal come out, trying to get an eye on where it's going to be going. Yukio already in a new position. Just has to keep an eye back over towards the portal, making sure that no aggression comes through. Managed to buy themselves a little bit more space, and I like the repositioning coming out of this, but realizing they're pretty close towards the edge, it's going to be TLP still continuing to harass them off over towards the distance. Hitting a lot of very nice shots, but still trying to continue along the path to find some form of safety.
Yeah, TQ doing a good job of applying that poke damage, but then Leon comes in with that wingman and drops one down. So again, despite making the positioning early, which is probably the better play, the difficulty is you give up that high ground and end up getting punished for it. So good opportunity here from the team in TLP that was the aggressor and ends up paying off. So 2 points to their name out of that fight. But now to be careful on the rotation. This was where we saw multiple teams, one on top of Mirage as well.
I believe it was ISMP that was holding down that location. They were keeping a firm eye back down towards this spot. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe they've already moved from that point, because there's a lot of vision up here. Actually, nope, still holding down, but looks like they're still trying to protect Protectful at the time. They're still hiding back over there, and we can see if maybe they can get back.
At the same time, as terrible as it is, they might be able to use them as bait. Because people are going to see a player and they're like, oh yeah, we can kill this guy. And then all of a sudden it's like they're getting overwhelmed by another player. So maybe you like 40 chest the situation. I don't know. Might work.
I've often talked about the fact that I think that going for a respawn towards the late game, kind of like what you were talking about using for bait, just go for the res and then have everybody's attention drawn back over towards the shuttle and use that to get to a new spot, is kind of cruel, but a solid strategy that we don't see employed a ton. New circle's going to pop, and it's still going to be going back over down towards Thermal Station. A little bit northern this time, as we're going to have a couple of rock outcroppings being a factor for it. Teams back over towards the north are getting very stacked up next to each other and have to be cautious.
Yeah, Sentinel's in a really good spot right now, too. Have high ground, are able to overlook all of Thermal. In the zone for the next one as well, as you can see from the Pathfinder passive, but TSM just waiting on the outside. They know there's a team over here that they're just waiting to rotate on.
Still connecting with good shots off in distance. Sure, 30, 40, 50, 60.
Someone nerf Outrelele, please. Someone nerf him.
How do you walk anywhere near this guy out in the open? You just have to find every single rock cropping you can, bounce from one to the other, and just constantly chain med to have some type of path. Meanwhile, new brainers do find themselves with the potential to get a couple of shots back out. Superior's making their rotation back over as well, kind of leading the pack out onto this, so have to be very cautious. As you can see, not a lot of vision to be found, but a lot of teams already stacked up along this spot.
Rotate around the back side, recognize that there is fencing up just about everywhere, so you need to be careful about where they aggress, but now they're caught in between the middle, a team up high and a team down low. So again, in a really rough situation, one of them does end up dropped by Death Call up top. So we have a team in HRN that realizes, you know what, we are surrounded by a lot of teams, time to call it home. So they're going to drop the Watson ultimate, and this is where they set up base.
That's about one of the worst feelings ever, is whenever you have to make a blind rotation, walk in, and suddenly all you see are just fences. And every single building, every single point that you were trying to go for, HRN do lose their door, but still playing around the outside. This one, Superior has one of them knocked down, but should be able to get the res based off the Wraith Portal on the outside. Also going to go ahead and set up Watson as well. Firm defensive point from here, but have to be cautious as they're pretty far to the north, and a lot of teams might opt to make the play back over towards them. Trying to get a little bit of a reposition, have to opt into leaving the complex that they had just fortified fortified. HRN is playing this one hyper aggressive, just running in. Gonna get, is that a melee we see coming outside of this one? We are very close range.
Gotta bop him on the nose. 1v1 the Mastiff more. The last one available here. Even though Eureka's on the back end side, it's not gonna matter as they get down Prodigy. But can't get through the door. Just gotta wait for the time to end up opening it up as he gets out of the phase shift, and they're gonna end up trying to move across. So again, trying to spread their engagement across multiple buildings. Just trying to watch the angles before they commit.
Got to be careful with that one. You can see that it's going to be NRG that reaps the rewards of everything that's been going on over here. Is they're going to have plenty of loot to work with. Got to be careful though, as new safe zone has popped and it's going to be making its way back down towards the northwest from where we're presently sitting at. We've been seeing a lot of hardships coming into the late game, so making it very complicated. Going to be NRG jumping back into point. A couple of shots coming out there as now we're going to pop back over on Team Liquid's vision as it looks like they're just in the process of mopping up the remainder of a fight.
I mean, good attempt, Panders. I like the effort into laying Team Liquid, but rough situation for you, bud. Still 14 squads.
Do what you can.
There's a lot of these in this North Point.
I feel like it's a lot of remnants, though, too. We've seen a lot of people manage to escape with just one player still alive and just manage to find somewhere to hide out. So, a lot of our teams that have been playing back over towards the northeast could find themselves funneled in between those two different points you can see on the mini-map. Got two little kind of passes that they can work through, but it looks like NRG is starting to get more and more control over this area. If they can manage to clear this one out, they should have a ton of kills to work with, but in addition to that, should find themselves with a much easier pass to move into the next safe zone.
NRG coming back up top and going right back down. Never mind.
Sometimes it's about just getting information and trying to see if you can bait out a shot. Sometimes it's just about baiting us.
Pretty good. Yeah, you got hit for about 75 damage, so pretty well done on the poke. As that Watson ultimate coming up clutch.
Be a little bit cautious with this one.
Down below. Yeah, I'm curious if they're going to poke this.
And Yukio's got the vision up on top of it, but it's going to be NRG continuing their rampage back over here towards the northeast that we were talking about, connecting with a lot of damage, looking back down into it as everybody's making the push back over towards the Gibraltar shield. Finally goes down, but it is just pop, 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 and everything going in NRG's favor.
Yeah, well played by Rex as well with that Mastiff. Just anytime there's an opportunity, way too many times people are way too hesitant when it comes to their shots with a shotgun. They want to wait for that perfect opportunity, especially when bubble play is there, but he sees the shot and he just takes it. And that commitment to that is just... Why? Because you're one of those players?
I am one of those players. I lose a lot of fights.
I get it. You want to make sure it lands, but that decisiveness just makes it so much easy. Plus, with the other players hitting those shots, it just applies that pressure, which makes them rotate back out. The whole point of that engagement is to help out your teammates. As Team Liquid sitting on the edge here, just doing a ton of damage with that thermite. You can just hear it adding up, and he lands another one.
It is just hell back behind that right now. There's nowhere to go. Quick spin back around, polishes that one off. They're going to have to continue their trek. Do you manage to make it inside the safe zone? 7 squads left, and it's going to be TSM. No surprise, up on the high ground, raining down damage. They have a lot of vision to work with, but again, a hard shift back down towards the northwest. Man, this game really wants to go back over towards Therm.
Can't do a whole lot to it as we're going to get our second thermal circle of the day. Sentinels was up top, but they ended up rotating out as they had that high ground kind of right on the edge. So curious to see if those guys are still involved or if they're still up top where they called their home. Either way, a lot of teams nearby and a lot of teams going to have to all reconvene in the same spot. I see them trying to utilize that high ground as shots are coming out of them. A little bit different from what we saw in game one, where Rogue and a lot of other teams were able to just kind of have free havoc on a lot of these teams down below. But Sentinels poised to win on this one. It ended up shifting in their favor. They've been here this whole time as Rogue looking pretty soft here.
Yeah.
It's getting removed from Sentinels and TSM and everybody else up top.
It's going to be TSM very aware of who's chasing after them on the leaderboard, making push back down after it, trying to pick up a couple more kills. Things considered, they're starting to get control back down towards the low ground and inadvertently kind of have Sentinels protecting them as they manage to make it back down towards kind of the footsteps of where we see Sentinels playing at. Team Liquid finding themselves in a little bit of a rough position. They've got a long ways to go to make it back over towards the safe zone and a lot of damage coming back over their way. Casper goes down. Sentinel shots still raining true back off of position, and you can see how difficult it is to make the rotation back over here when you have the lava that is just the secondary factor that you know is going to inflict more damage. Aim assist now playing back on the other side of this, kind of letting Team Liquid be a distracting factor for them.
Still on the same tide, too, for Sentinels up top. Sentinel has a lot of information to work with, and the difficulty is making sure that his team is coordinated so they can actually take advantage of it. As you see, TSM ends up getting a knock. Reps takes down the last player from what it looks like Liquid, as Flanker just trying to hold on for dear life. Eventually, Reps does get credit for the kill, so it's another 2 points in favor of TSM. On the backside, Team Liquid has Nocturnal still alive and ends up getting off the Phoenix kit. But with multiple teams in the area, 6 squads still available. He's the only one left, and a peek there is going to do a ton of damage. This could be their chance to aggress unless they can sit in front of that door.
Don't sleep on aim assist. These guys know how to play this game, and you can see they are just raining death and destruction on everything around them. But this is going to be a very difficult push. Look how defended it is, but they just keep hitting shot after shot into this. It's like a shooting gallery. They're just popping off every single fish that is in front of them right now. But you can see a nice play coming up from Yeet Squad, playing up in that high ground, trying to get something out of it, but it's not going to connect. It's going to be aim assist picking that one up, but have to be careful as they're taking a lot of damage now, starting to lose one of their members. Another one's already downed and out. Genderfying's trying to go for the res right now, but should be able to get the damage control off.
Need to be careful, though, as they do have Sentinels right above them, but I highly doubt Sentinels is going to give up their positioning. Trying to play for placement here, as it looks like kills have been somewhat quiet, just trying to play a little bit of cleanup. They do have TSM down below, and then right below them as well, another team. So our final 3 squads, 2 on top of each other and 1 on the edge. The circle shift actually going to favor, it looks like, TSM.
All right, they're starting to make a little bit more of a play back over towards this. Let's see how our other teams move. Looking at a firm 3-man squad on every one of our 3 teams still remaining. It's all about positions. You can see Sentinels up on the high ground, trying to rain down a little bit of damage back over towards TSM, who keep going for peaks. Meanwhile, aim assist still just trying to replenish after a very hazardous fight that they just took right on the edge of the safe zone. 8 seconds before we're going to have to start seeing a little bit of movement, and it's going to be TSM that's holding down the defensive line. 2 different squads going to be making their approach back over towards them. How are we going to see this one play out? We know TSM, they have the tools, they have the utility. Big shot going to come out to start this one out, cracking it on the approach, trying to get a look back over, follows it up for a second time. TSM now making their move, looking back up on the rotations as they're coming through. TSM's got to be careful. Braley's taking a lot of damage off to the side of this one, running back over towards the center. It's still going to be Reps playing on the outside. Imperial House now going down as well, trying to go for the peak on the side of this. It's going to be Reps, last guy up for his squad. He gets taken down, but it's going to be Sentinels that do manage to work their way inside this, becoming the new kill leader at the exact same time. Aim assist making their approach on the side of this one, getting a lot of plays. Forward aggression coming up big for Sentinels as they're going to walk away with the round.
Really well played by Sentinels on the back end there. You saw that high ground advantage, and even with Reps there with the Kraber shots, I mean, he cracked him immediately to start that fight. But then, like you said, it was pretty much like they're playing Duck Hunt. Guys flying through the air, they've got Mastiffs, and they're just ripping them out of the sky, and they end up getting rewarded for it. So Sentinels, early rotations ends up paying off. They keep the high ground, and then a little bit of the blessing of the circle ends up favoring them pretty much the whole way. And then that final push ends up just landing the shots. Unfortunately, Reps, I think, held on to that Kraber a little bit too long to where he was trying to get those shots on. Maybe the wingman may have been able to help out some of that aggression, but in the end, as we take a look at the highlights here, congratulations to Sentinels. Big bounce back game for them.
Yeah, big performance, and especially after those first 2 shots connecting from Reps with the Kraber, pumping out 300 damage across 2 different targets. Oh, I like the fact that we got the little sneaky play coming through. HRN, though, can never forget about these guys. They are just stacking up so much damage based off their positioning. NRG, they were trying to hold this one out, and it managed to walk away with it, inflicting a lot of damage. When we talk about NRG and wanting to see more out of them, I feel like they walked away from that game with a larger amount of kills than we've been seeing in the past.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, as we've been seeing the shift actually go into this more aggressive play here in week 3, but Team Liquid with 2 perfect thermals back to back, and then the aim assist pushed here as well. They ended up almost throwing this one. There was a player on the back end that was kind of hiding, and then they ended up getting bombed by the Watson fence. And this is kind of where it all started. TSM, 2 great shots with the Kraber right back to back. It might have been a different story if he lands headshots on those instead of body shots for the 150. It could have been an entirely different tied up fight with 2 players down from each team. They're the only one with 3. But then it's a matter of the smart positioning on the back end. Sentinel's able to come in. They save that Gibraltar ultimate. Don't waste it right away. And they end up getting rewarded for it. So congrats to Sentinels. A lot of kills at the end, but I don't know if it's going to make the difference up between TSMs throughout the entire match.
Well, it comes down to bringing a sniper rifle to a shotgun fight, as everybody was so close and they were just taking it into everything that was going on. You can see several members of TSM pushed up and forward, but Sentinels just so much control, especially after having those shots hit them from the Kraber, still managing to know how to play that one out.
Yeah, really well done, but that is going to wrap it up for our first half of the Americas for week 3 here, you guys. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll end up hitting the second half where we jump into Kings Canyon. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This is the GLL Masters Summer for the Americas region. Hey everybody, welcome back to the GLL Masters Summer for the Americas region. We're in week 3. We just finished up game number 3 and are going to be kind of catching you guys up on all the action before we get into the later half, where we'll be talking and playing on Kings Canyon. I'm Lawler. Alongside me is Match. I'm calling all the action. And so far, so good. Some pretty exciting matches all around, haven't we had? And a little bit of anime talk and a little bit of delays and some other crazy stuff, but it's been good, right? Like, we're chilling. We're hanging.
Just a little bit of overtalk coming inside of here, but you know, that's what chat loves. They love to hear us talk. They're not here for the games. They're here to hear us discuss things like the leaderboard and anime. Speaking of the leaderboard, you can see coming back over here inside that last round, it's going to be Sentinels walking away with 44 points. Back behind them, Aim Assist with 32, NRG popping off with 24. Back behind them, TSM yet again getting 24, and Team Liquid walking away with 20 points.
Yeah, good to see from Energy. Obviously, we've been trying to see if they're going to climb and kind of get into that rhythm. And at this point, even though they don't get the placements, they do get the kills. So well done by them to jump into that third spot and kind of tie it up with TSM. But again, Sentinels, early rotation there in the thermal station. And boy, were they rewarded heavily. So well done by them as we jump over now to the actual leaderboard with all these points being broken down for the day. And TSM up at top, Rogan second, Sentinels in third, and Energy in fourth. So to me, that looks like a little bit more than what I'm used to.
Yeah, seeing a little bit more of a climb back up here, specifically coming out from NRG. No surprises though. Who would have thought? We're in a North American event and it's TSM up at the top of the daily leaderboard. I am startled, Lawler.
Glad to know that you are as well. As we jump over to the Bravo leaderboard though, you can see the teams that have dropped down that are actually trying to make a battle back. Capital, Solifide, 303. All 3 teams were in the Alpha Division last week and are trying to battle and are at the top. So even though these guys have dropped down and not getting the double points, you can see that they're putting in the effort to go out and get kills in hopes of coming back and not being that too far off. So 303 playing well. I mentioned at the beginning they had a very good tournament. I think it was just yesterday or the day before that they ended up winning over some of the other teams. So glad to see that they're grinding and trying to get back on the right track.
Look who's on that cusp spot, though. It's one of your favorites, Anime Girls.
Yeah, favorite. Mm-hmm.
Trying to climb their way back up there. 3 more points, and they can make your life so happy inside that. Good to see 303 manage to stack up a lot of points inside the lobby today. Now the question comes into play as we're starting to look back over towards Kings Canyon. Looks like the game is already set and ready to go. Let's just get right up into the action as we're going to be following Sentinels, our last round victor.
All I'm saying is that when Onset was with me, he really took the reins, debated on how to say the name, and then he full committed to saying their full name every time. So if anybody's really upset, it's actually Onset that they're not involved. So we're going to just pass the buck over to him, and maybe he'll be enticed to do Americas again. Who knows? Who knows? He's a busy boy.
I guess it is wrong. I'm not really hitting the U and girls properly. So Sentinels coming in.
You want to try again as a fellow anime fan? You want to show them how it's done?
Anime Girls. Ooh. Is that better?
I mean, close enough. Ooh, gold power. Maybe if you make that ooh noise, you get rewarded with good gear.
Oh, please, God, don't let that be a thing. Otherwise, everybody that I play with Apex with is going to absolutely hate me.
Can you imagine comms in game? Just everybody opening doors and just yelling that in hopes.
Sounds like how complex these comms go, all things considered. Whenever you watch those guys stream together, it is just a chain of joy.
Hey, man, they have a good time, man. They have a good time. I think that's really important, though. We don't talk about the chemistry, I think, enough in a lot of esports about how important it truly is. Like, I mean, a lot of casters do talk about, like, yeah, momentum and the ability for these guys. A lot of kind of just trigger words, but chemistry is actually a really big deal. The ability for these guys to get along inside and outside the game, I mean, it makes practice a lot easier. When they have really rough performances, it allows them to get over it a lot more, and it helps with the whole concept of, like a team like TSM that has to engage and be on the same track of mind. When you're cracking the same jokes and kind of on that same wavelength, it does translate into game as well. So chemistry, a big one here, and glad to see that the guys on Complexity are some of the kings at it.
I like it. Bring us in some style points there. Thank you so much, Rogue, making the jump through the flaming hoop. But yeah, I 100% agree. We see a lot of players that tend to be a little bit more comedic, I guess is a good way to say it, and then end up on super serious teams, and that doesn't always work out for them. Finding people that you really just enjoy playing the game with can give you a lot more success than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, I've got a good group of buddies that I've known for years, and I'm lucky that they're good, so I don't have to worry about it too much because I'm a pretty competitive person altogether. So even though half the game we've spent throwing each other under the bus or trying to put each other in bad situations or throwing thermites on each other, we still get wins every once in a while. So it's a good mix.
Sometimes it's just fun to go out and troll your teammates. Good shots coming out from NRG, feeling the momentum after that last round. A couple of long-range taps. Not quite choosing to go full-on aggressive with it, just kind of content with inflicting the damage. Fine with the attrition and making people burn through a little bit of meds. As you can see, Rocker, touch low, going to go ahead and have to regen himself back up. So repositioning back over towards Forest Station.
Not a whole lot going on. Obviously, NRG was a team that we've been keeping our eyes on, seeing if they can bounce back as we jump over to Unknown. Shots coming out, Blur getting tagged up pretty heavily from the top side. He's going to have to hide in this corner and see if he can get out, but luckily for him, he's got a teammate in a portal, but on the other side, just waiting happily is Mercy, who's just going to rain down a bunch of bullets. Hopefully pick up some more. Going to drop down a bubble and gets one up top. Can he get the other? Ends up cleaning it up with the Eva, and that double tap coming in handy.
New brainers popping off, becoming the new kill leaders. Got to be careful. A little bit of third party coming into effect when you get that aggressive. That's prone to happen sometimes. Got to be cautious as already has a one member down and flushed. Tricky is down at the time. It's like maybe you're going to have to go ahead and avoid going after the banner, instead going back for a safer reposition point, and you just got to get those meds back up. Mercy only going to have to figure out how he wanted to approach this, as it's going to be aim assist dancing around the outside.
Coming over to aim assist, kind of just rotating in through Hydro Dam. Loving the revamp of how these things have been playing out, but I guess kind of a little bit of a tangent on the offside. How would you feel if there was a moment where they had an event where if you were the kill leader, you were shown full time on the map, like everybody knew where you were?
Oh,
kind of like a Juggernaut mode where like everybody chases after you, like if you're the kill leader. But a shot breaks out here from TSM.
Big plays coming out. TSM getting caught up in a very quick fight here. Capitalize off very quickly as NRG is going to be biting off a lot of that. 3 members already down and out, pushing us down to 17 squads remaining. I don't know. I guess it would depend on who the kill leader is. If you end up with a team like TSM becoming the kill leader, it almost throws up a flag of saying, please God, don't go here anymore.
But at the same time, like if TSM's going, like, okay, if TSM's playing a pub lobby, right? They're not worried about who they come up against. They're just going to go W key at everybody. So it may give some of that like avoidance capabilities to some of the other teams at the same time. Like it's kind of like a herding cattle kind of thing. But I'm interested to see on like how it would play out. I think it'd be kind of a cool concept. Maybe. I don't know.
It has
I'm down to test it.
For it.
I'm down to test it.
Always down to try something new, especially whenever we're looking at Battle Royales and how you can see impacts really affect everything as we make our way forward.
Right.
A lot of our teams are sitting at 49 people alive, and slow and steady, Gibraltar makes his way back over towards this direction.
That skin is so good.
It really is. It makes me so
happy
happy
every
time I see it.
Can I be Crust? Can I get that kit sometime?
Yeah, I mean,
they're both gold. Jesus.
But lacking on armor, so finding guns
cares?
galore.
Full glass cannon, man. Full glass. Oh yeah, they give him the Evo. Perfect.
Why not? Why not?
One shot the Kraber's gonna level that to 1.5. Why not, man?
Mercy only does manage to make it back over and pick up the banner of teammates. You can see ISMP going ahead and starting to set up their defenses now. With the shifts that we've been seeing, it feels like RNG is a secondary enemy to everybody inside these lobbies today, as they're having to very quickly capitalize, move back over towards safe zone, and that's leading to a lot of early action. As you can see, squads getting dropped off on their approaches, but TSM still feeling pretty comfortable based off of their location right now, and no inherent rushes. Superior's got themselves a vision of where the next circle is going to be at, as well as a pretty decent spot, moving back over towards center, praying the fact that they're not going to have to move for the next ones.
Yeah, it's pretty common for TSM, though. Obviously, a team that rotates relatively early. On the other side, though, Rogue does find themselves in a really tough situation. As Snipedown's already on the ground, he got dropped at a sliver of health, and Sweet just trying to escape. So Sentinel's on the hunt. Looks like they are the team that ended up getting that Kraber and applying some of that damage. So trying to remove a team that is at the top of the leaderboards alongside them. As shots coming down from Push. Talked about his involvement is something I wanted to see have a huge role here today. As Sweet on the back end, it dropped, does get a shield battery off, but very low on the health, needs to escape and get away from his, as they are still only 17 squads. A whole lot of people to get through. Going to be really rough on the placement.
Yes, give me the execution. I love it. I always like how the crate just pops out afterwards. Big dramatic kill, and all of a sudden it's like, whoop.
I mean, that's how it should be, right?
I don't know. Like,
this is totally off topic too, but like, so I come from Rocket League, right? We have like these really high intense moments and like crazy goals and all this kind of stuff, like 0-second overtime and whatever. We have this goal explosion where it just makes a little puff of smoke. It just goes, poof, and that's it. It's the greatest troll thing ever for a really big moment, and then just puff of smoke. That's pretty much what that feels like. Like,
I just get to imagine of like Job throwing out the glitter. You know that meme? It's just like,
yeah.
Delusions.
It's pretty much that. It's pretty much that, man. It's pretty much that. But it's so trolly, and I love it. I love the cynical side of it. I really do. I think they've banned it actually from like world events because they don't want like big They don't want big like highlight moments and just like, puh, and it's like, oh well. I mean, it makes sense. I get it. But I do love it.
Still kind of funny. You never know. Maybe add a little bit of streamers there and just step it up. Looks like not a lot of our edge teams in any form of rush to make it back over towards the next safe zone, as it is going to pop up. You can tell which teams have been gathering information with Pathfinders and which teams have not, as now we're going to see a lot of rotation, specifically going back over there towards the east. Back over towards the west, as it's going to be Rogue Drop. Does manage to run back over, pick up a little bit out of this, but got to be very careful, as he's going to have Sweet to work with if he does want to go for the res back over towards the beacon, but he's going to have a difficult trek ahead of him, as he's going to have to cross the entirety of the circle to get to the safe spot.
Yeah, drops in a really difficult spot, but he did a good job. He was able to escape there and get that med kit off, so sitting pretty healthy, but needs to be careful. Sentinels has been trying to find out where he is, and it's someone that they have to rotate through, so unfortunate here for Dropped, as he's trying to get the banner of his other teammate and probably trying to go for the revive. And as the team rotates out, he immediately makes his move, so well done here by Rogue, trying to stall here, but at the same time, Sentinels, if they wanted to, could actually bait this. They could just wrap right back, but going to be checking all the different angles, seeing if they can find him out here. As you can see,
I like this. You can see there's
checking
two
the revive spots.
strategies.
I mean, yeah.
You play back over along the edge, make sure to clear out anything, see if maybe you can spot anybody that's hiding, pick up those kill points, or you opt into safety. Go back over towards the circle, try to get back over towards center. You can see Sentinel's recipe for success is to go out, play edge whenever they're caught there, and see if maybe they can hunt down anybody else that's kind of playing aloft on this point. Because a lot of times, it's your more weakened squads that end up stuck, clinging to the side of the ring.
Well, it looks like they're going to be able to bring back Sweet. Wasn't able to get to snipe down in time. And luckily for them, this revive is on the complete opposite side of everybody else. So shouldn't have to run into too much, but people are going to know that there's someone rotating in from this side of the circles. They've got 45 seconds to try to loot up and get back in. As for the other team Sentinels, they are rotating into somebody that was just actually in the zone from Hydro Dam. So could be finding some of those pickups here as we jump in with TLP, having a pretty good day today. Very aggressive day as well, which I've been absolutely happy about, in the sense that they have had pretty much no hesitation. When they see a fight, they go for it and they commit.
There's something to be said for just executing off the call. If you're like, hey, let's go kill these people, and everybody is on the same wavelength and just charges in, a lot of times you can see that if you just all execute on the play together, even if it's a bad play, it can pay off for you. But every single time we've seen them, they just manage to make it work over and over. And sometimes it almost feels like over-aggression, but it always works out for them. And that comes down to gunplay and teamwork. Gotta be amazing communication back over on that roster.
I gotta admit, we were being a little bit biased. They had a really good game in game 1 where they took first, but 2 14th place finishes in round 2 and 3. It's just that recency bias. You know, we like to see them do the thing once and then it kind of sticks with us. But they've had a couple pretty tough rotations in the past couple of games. So
it's not all about stats. Sometimes it's what your heart says to you. And in this case, my heart says that I like the way that they play. Ziploc bags, looking back over, hitting a nice little tap off to the side of it, as you can see. And have themselves a position. The ring's going to be closing in just another couple of seconds, revealing where we're going to be taking our ways off. If any of the earlier rounds have been any indicator, I feel there's a hard shift in our future.
Yeah, sounds about right, but Ziploc does have a pretty good hard cover here and set up a little bit more, so they shouldn't have to deal with it too poorly, as it's going to look like it's going to shift to the top away from Sentinels, who have had to trek quite a bit of a way as they do spot out somebody on the outside here. This actually might be Rogue. Shots coming down here as they do end up finding him. I talked about that team that's going to be rotating in from the southeast, and Sentinels comes on back. So Sweet needs to be careful. No armor and half health. A couple shots and then you get dropped. As for dropped, it's even rougher being in the backside, and that Kraber is an option. Just kind of following the tracing of the Wraith and just waiting for him to come out the other side. And shot comes down, but return fire on Sen. He ends up leveling up that Evo. I think it actually startled him a little bit.
Sometimes it kind of catches you off guard there, but Sentinels now making great use of their vision, raining down a lot of harassment on all the teams trying to rotate up and ahead of them. They just have to be careful not to get caught up in too long of a fight, and that's why you can see. Take a couple of shots, move forward. Take another couple of shots, move forward. If you can pick up some kills here, great, but you don't want to end up stuck on the outside of this, having to fight your way back in with all of these stalls that can happen in a prolonged fight. Shot does go out. It goes a little bit awry, but by God, it's still just Sentinels trying to push up and forward, trying to find some type of opening to work with.
Yeah, the other scary thing about that, too, is everybody now knows that there's a Kraber in play, so all you got to do is land one of those shots. And everybody else, as soon as they hear that noise as well, is a little bit more passive about peeking these windows. So, again, trying to bob and weave back and forth in front of that window. Needs to be careful. Taking the hard cover as TLP going to move in on this one as well. 3 teams all in the same position. And another team engaged and involved here. Ended up popping it, and they don't have anything to do with this. So immediately, Wraith drops Pearl Mechs, but good damage being put on. Sentinels, who look like they're in a pretty strong situation, have now moved in a little bit too far. And TLP, both Sentinels find themselves in a really rough situation. As a drop over the corner, Anders can clutch it up. He gets massive to the face of Crust. But then the return fire from Sen. Need to be careful. So many teams in this area, they just need to back out. He's going to place this rift down, and hopefully his teammates that are down will come with.
It is a party that now very quickly nobody wants to be a part of. Chase does come back behind that one. Good plays coming out. NRG making a quick shift back over along the same path. They heard a lot of fighting back over here. Going to come up right after it all happens, but does spot out one immediately upon landing. Going for the spray back over towards it. NRG looking like they're wanting to play this one aggressive, trying to catch people running out and forcing them away from the safe zone. That's going to give them a path back into this. So now they can make the approach however they want, as all the teams along the path have been cleared out by other people.
Really well done by Energy. They hear that sustained fight for quite a while and immediately go for the redeploy and move on up. But need to be careful as Rocker possibly going to get hit by some of these nades. Needs to use that rift portal to get out. Taking damage, sustain, and they run into yet another team. So a ton of action happening on the west side of the circle. As people left and right getting dropped. Rogue, TSM, everybody in this area. Top 3 is a huge crypto EMP comes down and ends up probably helping TSM on the side. As he takes another shot, the Mastiff ends up hitting it. Savrelli, he's going to need to use the shield battery as he holds off the breather.
Find themselves a little bit of a corner to get their feet back underneath of them. ISMP starting to make the approach, getting separation out away from TSM, who's playing in that position back behind them. You have Protectful that is down. They're just going to have to leave him be, as there's no way to make the approach back behind this. See, up on there, I always like to see whenever TSM is playing how many people are watching them in a moment. See if 4 people just going to spectate after they've been killed off of it, kind of figure out what's going on. But DSM now has to make a little bit of a shift back over towards the east, as they know one team with a little bit of remnants are in front of them, so how to play this one a little bit more careful, going an eye back around to maybe making a southern wrap.
Listen, let's move here.
A lot of people in that middle circle, and the pattern shows that it's going to end up kind of towards that choke point. So all these teams, if they have that information, might be able to make a better decision. As you see, Liquid spread it out pretty well. One on the back side, just trying to look for information, while 2 kind of at that front point of the nose. But we do have some people holding angles, just trying to check and hold out. So Thanks for the, yep.
Just
Teamwork.
hugging.
Nice
Sometimes
teamwork.
it's about just showing the fact to your teammate that you care. You know, just coming over there, giving a little bit of love, giving a little bit of motivation to make their way through the rest of it. As you can see, a lot of rats now starting to hide out different parts of this circle. 35 seconds before it starts to collapse down, you can see off in the distance people running around trying to gather a little bit more information. As back over towards the north, it's going to be where Free Smoke is going to have to make their move. And they know at this point, 12 squads up and alive, 32 people moving around. Going to be a little bit difficult, as we can see that a lot of these teams are playing on the southern part of the circle. No surprise, whenever you look at the circles and how they shift, if you see everybody playing back over towards center and there's a hard shift back over towards the north, you have to think in your head, okay, most teams are going to move as close as they can to the next safe zone. That means that that section is going to be the most clustered.
Gotta be careful. Luckily for TSM, they do have high ground here, and something that's actually not something we've talked about, the fact that Reps is rocking crypto. So maybe they have committed to playing this more aggressive playstyle again. They're feeling comfortable with it, and it's been working out, but haven't really see that coordination really come through yet, as we see Abralelli up on the top of the Gibby. And that's part of the reason why he may be playing Gibby, is if Hal and Reps are going to play super aggressive, then he has to be the defensive one instead of the mobile one like he has been with Pathfinder. So interesting to see the development here. And hopefully we'll see it play out and show the true power of what can happen, as Free Smoke sitting in here with all the caustic smoke. You see Rambo living up to his name. Tons of damage being put down. Removes another. And unfortunately for Vuzby, he's going to get eliminated as well. Another side. Yeet Squad trying to find another team. So many players in this area on the back side as they enter into the building. Trying to get a couple bits of damage. EVA 8 coming out from 6. Teams left and right. Shots raining down from the EVA 8. The Wingman doesn't even need it, as Wings is going to be there to pick it up.
The 8 squad comes out on top of that one, and not too far to make it back over towards the next circle. We've got tons of loot to work with, as this has been a party house to say the least. A ton of teams lined up. Yeet Squad got to be careful as they do the peek back over. Bowser takes a phase full of damage. Gonna have to jump back and away from this one. Yeet Squad now knows that they have somebody that is up on the hillside in front of them. Might opt into playing back over towards the west and trying to circle around. It's going to be ISMP that's playing up above them, seeing if maybe they can get a knock out of this one. Don't quite have an angle to work with, but every single time a peak comes back around, they're trying to inflict as much damage as they can.
Need to be careful as well with this much noise coming out. It's a ton of information that's been given to the other squad, so SMP kind of in a tough spot as well. Luckily for them, I don't think anybody's going to be able to rotate around that backside, but you never know with some of these Wraith players, so need to be careful, just trying to check their angles, and I like the fact that they're both peeking from the same spot so they can go for those trades. Something that they may want to do as well is if they can push up to the other side and get a different approach, but it does make them susceptible to the other angle up top, so got to be careful here with how they play this, especially with the zone going to be starting here in 5 seconds.
Got to be cautious on this one. You can lead to a mutually assured destruction between both of these teams. Both of them trying to commit off of this fight can really stall them out and let the ring come in and do a massive amount of work. Each squad looks like they've got themselves a position trying to run up and get a little bit ahead of how we see ISMP going for their play. Look at the defensive line that they've already set up to clear themselves a perfect path coming into it. Aim assist then finds themselves right in the thick of it, right on the edge of the circle right now. It's going to be a dance back and forth, as we can see Ziploc Bags looking back over, trying to take a couple of shots, and it is just raining members of opposing teams just jumping down inside their shields, but they don't care. They managed to walk away with that one. ISMP coming out on top.
Looked like ISMP was going to be in a really rough situation with the other team having the high ground, but just better shots able to land as Yeet Squad fighting off here. Liquid on the other side actually knocking down a ton of players too. Just see Iceman doing whatever he can with that Mastiff and is going to use that movement, but he goes right into another team and gets removed.
There is nowhere to go. ISMP trying to inflict as much damage as they can. They go down. Only one left up and active. Ziploc Bags coming out as the kings of this part of the circle. They just have people jumping up on top of them, delivering their loot. Great's right up next to him, continuing to make that harassment. Yo-Yo's jumping over, back behind it, tries to go for the shot. Not going to connect, but it's going to be on the other side of his MVP, trying to follow it up, making their push back over towards the safe zone. They've got a lot of control and a lot of vision to work with. I love playing these rocks, getting the high ground, spraying back down into everything that's going on. There's nothing these teams can do, just trying to get the Wraith and get the reposition back out, but the hunt is on. There's nowhere for these teams to go as it is so closely contained, and that rock just has crate upon crate next to
Good patience from this last team. MVP on the back end as well as SMP. SMP was the team that made it through that lower push and are doing relatively well here, so using that high ground, trying to wait for their moment. They end up picking another kill out of a straggling player. Gonna have time to heal. It is a 1 versus 1. It's madness. On the side, he ends up landing a grenade hit, ends up getting it returned. Follows the trace, ends up dropping a portal. Shots coming down, ton of damage, and he's actually gonna clutch it. SMP with the victory, and he shows his worth as he gets on top of that box and asserts dominance.
All comes off of that setup. They saw so many people that were taking shots at them. Remember, they were held down in a location not inside the safe zone, but then they managed to stretch out, managed to use the Pathfinder ultimate to line up a path to get out of there, and you just saw it was Watson traps all over the place. It was just fences galore, and they opened up a path to walk right inside the zone, and they just walked into everybody fighting in front of them and got to capitalize off of it.
Really well played at the back end. We talk about these teams having the know-how to be a little bit more passive and patient. Some want to go for the points and the kills, and it may work out, but again, if you can kind of get a mixture of both, get those 12 points for the victory as well as those extra 3 kills at the end. And you even saw it on the back end as we look at the highlights. A little bit of swagger here from Rogue at the beginning going through. I wanted to see a 360 out of that, but patience paying off. No-brainers or new-brainers, however we want to say it. Sitting on the back end there, being a little bit more passive, and then he's able to clutch up with that even the double tap. So again, a lot of these teams showing that yes, you can play aggressive, but you still need to have the game IQ on when to engage. Wow. Way to delete that player.
Oh, look at TSM just waiting there, hitting the shots on the approach. Sentinel's putting in a lot of work off to the side of this, and also we were talking about TLP and the aggression that they like to bring out. Good plays coming out. Panda's trying to pick up the kills off of that, trying to go for a little bit of meds, get a little bit of space, but just can't find the time to work with. Free Smoke, fiddly, fighting in a whole bunch of caustic smoke down, as this was a very dangerous approach for him to take, as everybody is just running right into Rambo, who's just living the good life inside of all of that caustic gas.
It was just one fight after another that we thought kind of as the pain house. I mean, everybody just one after another kind of just funneled in and just kept that fight going. So it's third party after the third party, but then we got on the backside and how they had to rotate out. I mean, I was expecting that MVP was going to be in a really rough spot, being the team on bottom, but missed the rest of the guys. After they rotated through, they were going to be in trouble, but eventually they ended up winning, and SMP been making a huge name for this, so congratulations to them, playing extremely well, and they're able to get the victory here, so that's going to bump them up quite a bit. Right now they were sitting in 15th and kind of just looking for that one game, so glad to see that they found it.
Question I have for you, Lawler, is what have we done to Crypto today? Because, man, he is on the hunt for us. He's just making our life absolutely miserable here. You can see no video feed to save everybody out there from our horrible, horrible faces. But finishing off another round, I believe that we still have 2 more to go, as that was our first one over on Kings Canyon. And God, I love the action on Kings Canyon.
Yeah, I love the elevation changes and a lot of the terrain changes, but biggest thing, the map is a little bit smaller, so we get a whole lot more action. It happens even faster, but because of that, we don't want to delay you guys any further, so we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, guys, we'll have game 5 here for the GLL Masters Summer Americas region. Hey everybody, welcome back to the GLL Masters Summer for the Americas region. Lawler here alongside Matchroom calling all the action. We just wrapped up one of our first matches, or our only first match, I guess. There's not multiple first matches. That wouldn't make sense, right? For Kings Canyon. A lot of action that went down. I mean, technically we have two
We've had some
matches.
remakes. We had a remake, so
we've
you're
had
not
two
wrong.
first matches. We've actually had two first matches. The remake, and we've also had a first match on both maps.
See? It's there. We just got to find the science behind it.
Either way, let's take a look at the scoreboard, see the results of that last one, and an interesting one at the end. If I remember correctly, in production, you can correct me on this one. Shiny Muffins was pretty much fighting 1v3 at the end there.
Big plays coming out from them. Yeah.
Yeah, so big clutch there. I mean, not only with the placement points, but also the kills. Unreal how they're playing that out.
Back behind them, you're going to see MVP, Ziploc Bags, Yeet Squad getting 30, 26, 22 respectively. TSM never wanting to leave the top 5, ever going to walk away with 16 points as well. Sentinels, Rogue back behind them, as well as Team Liquid, still continuing to rack up enough points to keep them out of the danger zones. On the other side of that, you can see it's a little bit problematic, as we've got to keep an eye on our bottom 5 teams. Easy Katka, Smile, Unknown, Yukio, and Team Superior right now back down towards the bottom.
Yeah, Team Superior not having a good one. This is another team that found themselves in kind of that top 5 area. So again, if you guys are unaware or just joining us or haven't seen how this works, we have an Alpha and a Bravo division, 20 teams in each, and the bottom 5 from the Alpha division at the end of today, after all 6 matches, they can drop down, and on the Bravo division, top 5 is going to find themselves promoting in. The reason why the Alpha division is so important is because you get double points. So really big deal here as TSM continues to stay at the top. They are first overall on the leaderboards as well. So a lot going on here as we enter our 5th game out of 6 for the day. Second for Kings Canyon. And we're going to be jumping in with SMP, our winners from the last match. So I actually like where they drop. This has been a pretty consistent one for them up at the top here, just outside by Capacitor. And overall, I think with the way that it plays out, I think it gives them a lot of options just in general sense to rotate out. They've done a pretty good job of like making sure they're almost like one step ahead of a lot of these teams, because it's been the only reason why they've been able to survive is their positioning has been pretty solid.
Well, hey, Lawler, you remember last week whenever we got water treatment plant? Looks like we might have the potentials for that given how hardship's becoming in a factor. Market is also going to be inside of this, but note, right smack dab in the middle of this circle is going to be a huge rock face that's going to deny a lot of potential movement locations. That means these teams are going to have to kind of pick a side to work around. Even if you get that Pathfinder information, you're going to have to come into this one going, all right, how are we wanting to play this one out? And if you got to remember, back over towards water treatment plant, it got messy quick, as there's a lot of sight lines coming out of that location.
Yeah, the difficulty with this is depending on where you want to kind of settle. Obviously, the team over by Market is in a really solid position, being able to stay there for an extended period of time. But as you mentioned, there's that big area that is uninhabitable in the very middle. So you pretty much have to dedicate to the hardcover either on the south side or the west side, or kind of where you see that one arrow on the northeast in the very center. You have to dedicate to one of those 3 spots. Those are going to be heavily contested. And then after that next circle shifts, you need to rotate immediately into that next piece of hardcover to give yourself a chance. There's going to be some highly contested spots here. And with how these guys have been rotating already, expect a lot of damage coming out in these early rounds.
Specifically, you've got to keep an eye back over towards the east. Rotation points are a little bit easier in what is going to be our second circle based off of that. Whenever you play back over towards the west, there's a little bit more open terrain, not as many places that you can really hide your full squad into. So we might see a couple of teams trying to recoup their losses back over towards the west, but it's going to be the east that could end up being stacked depending on how rotations come into play. Looks like Team Liquid getting pretty close to making their rotation inside the safe zone. But slowly and steadily, no big rushes. They're just spotting out things that are going on around them. Looks like they put out the marker back over towards that, but I think that's just going to be a rotational marker.
Yep. Team Liquid today, 2 5th place finishes in Game 3 and Game 4 back-to-back. So one of them had 6 kills, the last one only had 1, so trying to make up a little bit more for that here, as they are slowly trying to inch towards that top 10 and having some difficulties back and forth. But team composition with their legends pretty tried and true. 2 mobility and 1 defensive, which is the standard. Not a whole lot going on, but we're going to jump over the Eat Squad because they're going to give us where that next circle is going to move forward with the passive. So pretty happy to show for themselves on where they need to head. So with that information in mind, you can already see them start to rotate out. A Smile here, already trying to put some damage down and have committed to this position.
Got to be a little bit careful on it. You can see Petty Boss taking some damage instead. Just going to kind of lean this one back and be a touch more patient off of it. 10 seconds before the ring starts to make its closure back over here, as a lot of our teams already getting into a firm position. Yukio kind of looking around right now, taking a couple of pot shots back over towards distance. Haven't had a chance to see them a whole bunch towards the late game, as it feels like the early game is where they keep finding constant fights. These guys going for them as they see them, but you can see taking the pot shots back over towards the Gibraltar Shield's going to come out, and it's just going to be a reposition away. So unless Yukio decides to make a play off of this one hyper aggressive, doesn't look like they're finding the knocks to really capitalize off of it just quite yet.
At the same time, though, with info in that Skull Piercer on that Wingman, all it takes is a couple shots to land, and that's enough for me to aggress. So trying to hope for that poke damage and see if they can land something. Then it's just a matter of that IGL making the calls. They spot one up top. Not able to land any of these shots, but Again, team probably going to be a little bit more fearful to peek. Hearing that wingman shoot over the side as we jump over to Energy on the north side of water treatment.
Yeah, they've opted to play pretty close to center on that southern part where we were talking about that big chunk of rock right in the middle of everything. So this is kind of creates its own kill box. As you can see, there's going to be the rock croppings out on both sides. So really, as long as you're keeping an eye back over that direction and towards the east, you've got a lot of protection to work with. Problem with it is a lot of teams like this point and know the strength that comes with it. So could have a couple of teams coming, try to take their home away from them right now as Energy is trying their best to be good tenants.
Hey, man, I talked about it. It's going to be one of the 3 points that really needs to be contested. There's going to be a lot of action. If you don't get there first, someone else is going to. So already Energy making that early rotation as we jump on with free smoke. They have another team here is trying to remove some of these fences from Watson as they turn in on the top side. Just kind of overseeing everything as the team's rotating in. Gets 1938 and a bunch of extra damage. Actually doesn't get the knock just yet, but relatively close as we still have all 20 squads remaining. Trying to see if they're going to push this one or not.
Urias has been so good on our previous week, but right now we just haven't had a big standout moment yet again from him. A lot of consistency coming in, but not high inconsistency is the problem right now with it. Free Smoke still just trying to get a field back over towards the west.
Yeah, other than Gabe 1, where HRN and TLP at the very top, you know, where they're in that fight with Rogue at the very end, we haven't really seen much. Obviously, Moore is coming in as that sub to kind of help out, but we just haven't really seen the dominant play from Urias like you mentioned. So again, still plenty of time. 2 matches left here as we're on game number 5 out of 6. So they're peeking more, just trying to wait his turn, see if he can find some shots here. The R99. Checking their angles and a whole lot going on as they have the Watson passive regeneration. If they do get tagged, it shouldn't be too detrimental. But obviously don't want to take damage for free. Throws over that Thermite from Superior, the other team that they're peeking with. Both in a really good position, actually, I would say, on the west side of that kind of middle area.
Willing to bet that on the other side of this, it looks like a quick, aggressive play coming back over. Urias gets dropped real fast off of that one. Must be going to go ahead and come up with a play off of it, but now going to come back for the revive. HRN's got to be very careful with them if they see a big firm aggression coming out, and yes, it is. Stepping up into this one, it's going to be Superior just coming in with gusto, dropping out a massive load of damage right up on top of HRN. Going to have a couple of visitors coming down to also give them some company from that top section, continuing to rain in the damage as they can to force him back up that stairway.
Yeah, Energy getting involved in this one as well, but a ton of throwables coming in, just trying to check and cover their angles as that stairway from the top side end up forcing them back out. So good job by Superior to be decisive on that one, get some kills for their efforts as they're going to loot up here and reap the rewards, but still know that there's another team nearby. Got to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, whenever you force somebody back up the stairs to survive, you got to be a little bit cautious with it. So they're pretty aware that everybody's going to rotate out and away from this point. Nobody's wanting to bite off a whole bunch at this stage of the game. So Superior find themselves a lot of vision, a lot of control that they can potentially play out of. Free Smoke back on the other side of this one, playing it a little bit more careful. You can see lean down trying to avoid windows, but have to be cautious as it's full on defense. Anybody that opens up these doors is going to quickly find themselves in the midst of a caustic trap waiting to happen.
Yeah, going to be really difficult as he drops down yet another one. Only way to kind of get around that is either you, A, try to open it with a wingman if you can, or you throw a thermite, you break the door, and then shoot the bottom of it. Whether we see that happening or not, it's just a lot of utility to use just to get inside, but I don't foresee anybody playing that aggressive as we see a crypto coming in handy here from Easy Katka.
A lot of information can be gathered. We talked about it several times. Whenever you end up on these outskirts positions and you have to make dangerous rotations, Wraith can be a good factor, but don't forget about Crypto. Crypto can move forward, give you a lot of information for your team to work with, and you can find sneaky ways to kind of creep back around targets you don't want to go after, or set you up in a prime position to be the aggressor if you do so choose. A couple of shots going to be coming out from Easy Katka to force away from the balloon. At least one member going to be dropping off the side. A couple of shots are going to connect to at least make him scared about making push back this direction.
You know, let's go with this too, and a very interesting composition here from Easy Katka with the Bloodhound as well as the Crypto. They're just playing for information. The benefit is if they are going to play that a little bit more aggressive play like we've seen in some of the previous games, knowledge is key, and what better way to do that with Bloodhound and Crypto. Big EMP coming in. This could be the push.
Gonna hit a couple of shots, gonna connect with a lot of it off the point of the Easy Cat has to be careful as Ella's gonna take a lot of damage, go down herself. And we're gonna have to see how this one goes. Quick drop down, shot goes a little bit of rise. Second one doesn't connect either. Finally gonna pop off inside of this one. Gonna keep on following it through, picks him up in the end. Ella is down, but should be able to get rezzed as yes, it's gonna be reflex on the roll for it.
Really well played by Easy Kaka, just sitting with that Bloodhound on the back end side, waiting for that. It just preemptive shots. I mean, knowing when that person's tendency is to re-peek and just pre-fires it and gets rewarded. So again, showing the benefits of what a crypto can do. All that information, they know exactly where the team is. They spread out and then drop that EMP and already at an advantage going into that fight. So really well done and the aggression paying off. It's also our first team eliminated here in Game 5.
A big factor to look at whenever you're playing a comp like that is making sure you rein in the aggression at times. It's got the ability to give you a ton of information to work with, but only on certain areas, as if you find yourself pushing too hard or too fast, long-range third party can rip you to shreds. So making sure that you have the comfortable position to make that aggression is a key component of victory for that unit. Meanwhile, on the other side of this, you can see TSM being that long-range shot that I was talking about just a second ago, throwing in a touch of harassment. His grenade is going to land pretty close, but easily dodgeable from this range.
Yep. Rips does land one shot with that wingman 47, so team might think twice, but they are stuck between two, it looks like, as they are just outside of Repulsor by the tower. Saw a team by Flavor of the Month this morning basically claim the top side of that, as they do have two above, one hiding on the outside as well. In his tree, ready to box anybody as BKB, and I'm dropping bars over here.
You can see a Pathfinder caught in his natural habitat, hiding up in the trees, waiting to swing away at any given moment, should any form of aggressor choose to come back along this path. Scouts around, seeing if any predators might be coming after him, but alas, there is no one even anywhere near him at the time. Sorry, that was terrible. I know. I can't. This is what happens whenever we just have a second of nothing fighting.
Hey, if we would have stayed on him, I would have doubled down, man, but I'm talking about him being in his natural habitat and the breeze in his hair.
Just let's not get into what Pathfinder mating calls might sound like, please.
I mean, with a robot, I don't know how that would work.
It has to do with something with like some type of smile.
It's actually us when we're having server issues today.
Oh my god, that's gonna be it. Oh, hey, it looks like a little bit of action now coming in. Let's change the subject off of that one as fast as humanly possible. Sorry, I opened that Pandora's box.
Oh man, Superior had that early fight and came out ahead. So I think it was Energy on the receiving end. I could be wrong on that one, but I saw their names in the kill feed.
Superior getting a little bit of scouting information off the side. You can see with the X-ray that they do have a team that's pretty close back over towards them, doing the pings. Got firm awareness based off of it. Superior's not quite inside the safe ring quite yet, so looking around, got to be cautious on this. They're super close to it though. Rogue on the outside, slow creeping their way in, trying to see if maybe they can spot somebody out onto their approach. Looking back down into the depths, not gonna find anything off of it. Should have a pretty easy path to at least make a foothold here. The problem with it is there are so many teams already in place along this point. It's gonna be very difficult if shots start to come out and reveal their location, as it could be very quickly even a third, fourth, and fifth party becoming a factor.
Well, here it is. He talked about the rotation, trying to do it quickly and quietly, but it doesn't matter. MVP up on the top, putting a ton of damage down onto that first player. But part of the reason why you send the Wraith is the ability to escape, whether it be with the phase shift or the ultimate, it does not matter. But able to bob and weave their way through traffic. Rogue still in a rough the rough spot is Sweet. And now Snipe Down getting dropped down as they push into another team and are trying to retreat out of this. Not a whole lot of places they can rotate to.
Looks like they're going to opt all the way back around towards the north and pray that they don't encounter anybody along the path. Meanwhile, Unknown getting a little bit friendly with people right over there next to him. Going to take the Wraith Portal back to step away. Going to reposition based off of this one, and you can see caustic traps galore around their location. Got a little bit of space out and away, but the Gibraltar Shield is going to come down, firmly revealing their aggressor's position. Do you want to take this one? I was going to say, you want to take the tree this time?
Just going to let him enjoy the silence over there. You know, I don't want to interrupt his moment.
It's the calming way to play Apex Legends. Yeah. You know, take the pacifist approach. Just enjoy the trees, the textures, the serenity of the sounds of Kings Canyon.
I feel like Rain needs to be playing right now. I need to like curl up with a nice blankie and just like take a nap.
All right, well, let's turn this one back around. Let's get a whole bunch of throwables out. As you can see, Rogue does manage to get one of their members back up. Now looking to see how they're going to make the aggression back over towards us. Got to be careful. Taking a couple of shots onto it, trying to retreat back off on this angle, but no clear path. It's going to be ISMP still holding the angle up in front of them, just raining down death and destruction right on top of them. Opting to step away from this one, ISMP going to instantly retreat back over towards the Wraith portal, but MVP trying to make a play on the outside of this one as well, repositioning back onto it, and you can see it's a lot of run and gun. People stepping in, taking a shot, instantly taking the Wraith portal back out, but there's not a lot of options to work with right on this edge of the ring. It is just turning into a problem for every single one of these teams. They're all clustered up too close, and there is nowhere for them to go.
Just so many players in the way as Madness ends up meleeing a Pathfinder that's stuck. Not sure if there's an issue there, but might be disconnected, so he puts him in a position to keep him a little bit safe. Trying to put him back inside, so teamwork coming out in the most unconventional way as MVP had a really good spot on the high ground. Trying to peek on the corner, seeing if he can get some shots in.
It. It's too ridiculous. He's punching him around to try to avoid him taking any shots right now. Using a little bit of bait, but he's going to take a couple of shots and retreat back away from this one. Is he going to continue to try to bait this one out and maybe punch him back down that hillside?
I mean, it makes sense if he needs to. He doesn't want to give away those kill points. So aim assist on the top side going to be rotating across here on the northeast. But we actually saw this earlier today where someone in EMEA, they got knocked and he was behind the person punching them, trying to, push them ahead. They ended up both getting knocked and dying, so it didn't work. So who knows? Madness is able to save his Pathfinder this time, but who knows for how long. His aim assist up on the top. Designful doing a good job with that wingman getting pegged from further across. He's got some support on the back end side as MVP. Able to rotate in. Vaxilon going to get dropped down on his team by Crummy up top. Trying to finish off this kill. Get those kill points. Going to throw that Arc Star. But needs to be careful as there's another team up top. As he drops down, finishes the kill and gets those 2 points. But what is it worth as he gets removed completely by Matt Pickett?
Pal's got to play this one very, very carefully. He knows that there are a ton of teams that are up
can't
in
play
front
this
of him.
one. He's AFK. He's disconnected.
That's true. Well, hey, look.
Not moving. He's playing so careful, man.
Points.
He's playing
Placement
so
points.
careful. He's not even.
I was caught up in looking where I was looking at his health bars. Didn't notice the other side of it. Leave me alone. I feel sad now.
Hey, man, you wanted to play safe, and he's playing super safe. So safe.
He is.
He's not even clicking the keyboard. All right.
Not even gonna make a sound. Yeet Squad, though, in a very strong position right now. We've been seeing a lot of the fights happening back over towards that northeast, and a lot of remnants or squads trying to make an approach over here. They've opted into playing down below everything, getting themselves a firm stronghold to work from. Question comes into play is if anybody's going to even try to aggress along these points. We got a lot of people that are just kind of clinging to the outside. NRG very close towards center right now, but all the fights are happening off in the distance. It's going to be very difficult for them to pick up a lot of kills as it feels like everybody's fighting on the outside of it. Talked about the safety of this position. You can see it's even going to end up in the end point for it as a lot of long range shots all happening on the outside of NRG, but no line of sight.
Gonna be really difficult for Easy Caca on the guys, but luckily they have a portal, so they're gonna be able to re-engage here quickly, getting on top of this Wraith. This Reflex puts a ton of damage with that Prowler, has a teammate nearby, but it doesn't matter. Having to rotate into that team is Yukio able to hold them all down and get the kills. So a lot of materials to work with here. And depending if they want to go and loot here, that's going to be the difficulty. A Smile is still around the corner. There was multiple teams in this area as he's throwing out a ton of thermites. Should allow them to push forward a little bit as they end up getting a ton of damage on the back end side. We had 2 team members removed, and he ends up checking that corner, ends up blasting this Pathfinder in the face. Rip north, and what a play by Reflex.
Good awareness of hiding holes and where people might be trying to survive from. Now how Smile are going to make their move based around this. You can see they essentially have to opt going up towards the north and circling back around towards the east, or going down to the south and circling around. Shift has gone back over towards where we saw NRG making their home much earlier inside of this game. So now options very limited. 8 squads alive, 23 people up and alive. TSM still strong 3-man squad right on the edge of the safe zone. Got a couple of different path points that they can play for, but have to be very careful moving forward.
So they do have a team up above on their building just to the other side here on the east. Need to be careful of that and careful on how much they make a move, as the other side of this building looks like Yeet Squad. So a couple teams actually in the same area. As Bowser just sitting there watching, ready to throw a thermal at any rate, but at the same time, they might be able to take this to the other side of the portal, but need to be careful with how many people are watching them. So now that it's gone, he can commit back to the other team. Has a longbow fully kitted, so can apply a ton of damage, especially with that increased rate of fire over the update that came quite a bit ago. Becoming a bit more
ready.
viable.
I was going to say, Unknown looks like they might be the X factor, the catalyst for what is going to be the big fight on the outside of this one. See, as they're making their approach in, it's going to be Yeet Squad trying to defend it up. Going to have the Gibraltar shield drop down right over in front of him. Yeet Squad just still trying to hold the line, hitting a lot of damage back over towards it, but still constantly keeping awareness on how people might be approaching from the other side of it. Keep in mind, TSM is back down on the other angle from this, so Yeet Squad planning to play this as cautiously as possible. It's just kind of like running through death hallways right now, as every single peak could be a disaster for your team.
Yeet Squad's playing it really well, though. Just the ability to hold that angle. You saw what Nicewing did. He backed off, and rather than aggressing on that player that came across, he just held the angle and let that player come to him. He's able to put an easy spray down as shots coming in. Speaking of spray with the Sentinels, you've seen that Mastiff just try to finish off this player and get the kill points, and they cleaned it up. Unfortunately for Mini, the players that ended up having that really clutch fight on the northwest side, that's going to be all she wrote. So Sentinels looking pretty strong here.
Got themselves a little bit of a divot to play inside of and a lot of loot to replenish everything, move them into this late game. 6 squads up. We've got 16 people playing in a very small circle at this point. NRG still playing out around this. Crummy has managed to sneak in for Unknown right on the edge of the ring, but not a lot of good options up in front of him on how he's going to make this approach. Luckily, he is the Wraith, but really, at this point, you know that anywhere that you go is going to have somebody sitting and waiting to take you down. TSM playing back over towards the center of the circle is going to have a lot of control inside of this one. Whenever a fight breaks out, they can instantly react.
Kind of curious to see on how they're going to play this one. Obviously, they're in the middle. They have the positioning in the circle, but not the high ground, so need to be careful, especially with the Yeet Squad right on the outside. Trying to see if they can spot somebody down below. They end up doing that. And luckily for Bowser, he's got that thermal scope, so able to spot him out relatively with ease. As fights breaking out above TSM, just kind of debating on what they want to do here. The more and more they move, it makes it easier for Yeet Squad to find him on the other side. 6 teams still remaining and just waiting for their opportunity. This is that patience we talked about the high ground, but a crypto ultimate going to wipe them completely. And it affects so many people.
Oh, the ring coupled with crypto, it is near on impossible to see anything. Team Liquid holding down a nice position. TSM just mowing down anybody that walks into their neighborhood. They know that there's a team up above them. Go ahead and step out, instantly ripping them into a ton of damage out there. Knows that they're going to have to push up into this. Going to instead opt into playing down below, as they know that they have utility that they can pick up over here to propel them into what could be a healing battle.
Still 4 teams remaining, and you want to talk about a healing battle. Look how healthy Sentinels is on the outside, able to poke from a distance. But it is going to force everybody in. So for the benefit of TSM, people are going to have to drop down to find them. At the bottom, they've got so much to work with, so they can go for the heals. And Sentinels might end up playing for the late game, where they're just going to try to drop everything off to everybody else and see what they can do to give to one player. They might just play the heal game. Very viable option towards the end here, especially with so many teams remaining, as NRG still alive, trying to poke from the top side.
I like the peaks back down in between every crack that they can find.
Shots
Trying
on
to inflict more damage back over towards Liquid. Casper does go down. NRG not wanting to firmly commit just quite yet, as they know there's a lot of people all stacked up right along this house. Out of the 4 squads that are alive right now, 3 of them are all stacked inside of this position. So the moment you step away from it, you could find yourself in a little bit of trouble. Up on the top of it, instantly run up, pick up one of them. So that's going to be a nice capitalization point to move us down to 3 squads. It's going to be Sentinels looking back over towards everybody inside the household. Not a lot of options to work with. The high ground on one point, low ground on the other, and a range coming in to be the factor for Sentinels. Going to see how this one's going to play out. But look, it's going to be a Wraith going back over and forward, trying to dance around just a little bit, maybe giving themselves a little bit of positioning, depending on how the Wraith portal comes through, as it is going to be ult upon ult just dropped off in such a small circle.
I'm curious to see how TSM's going to play this one. They hear the fight coming out from NRG, and on this other team, I think it's Liquid possibly on the, or no, it's Sentinels on the outside. So 3 teams all in the very relative top parts of the map, or where we consider them to be, and TSM just hears it coming out over and over again. So they're trying to apply damage. You see the Gibraltar ultimate as well, but trying to use those iframes, trying to wait out. I mean, someone came down, found TSM, and ended up having to go right back up. So at this point, 2 teams fighting up at the top. Just waiting to see how it plays out. Team drops down. Abrolella getting absolutely shredded. TSM on the backhand side. NRG jumping over. Trying to move down, as we see 2 teams going back and forth. Using that portal. NRG just going back and forth. Trying to buy as much time as possible in this field. As TSM, the last one surviving. They're able to clutch it up and get the win. What a play by TSM.
Patience pays off in the end. They heard everything that was going on and let all the other teams fight it out for them. Instead, just opting in, playing down below, knowing the fact that it's very hard to aggress back down towards that point, and then just letting it all fall into place for the moment that they finally decide to make their move.
Yeah, it seems like they made a call and they stuck with it. You know, a lot of the time during that, I was like, okay, you have the opportunity to hear all this. You can go play third party, but then you're going to be aggressing on somebody, which puts you at a disadvantage if the other team that you save ends up trying to re-aggress back on you. So they take the advantage of that lower ground. They set up, they do the Wraith portal to give themselves some time, and then they just hold their ground. They just wait for it, and it ends up playing perfectly. Gibraltar over the top. They got an EMP from Crypto. Just really good decision making. I don't know who's their current IGL, but fantastic call for them in TSM.
Well, let's not forget about Sentinels in their play coming into that one as well. Playing on the outside of it, they managed to win their fight, get themselves a nice control point with a lot of safety to work with. You saw the fact that while everybody else was defending up, there was plenty of time for them to switch around armors, go ahead and switch out meds, make sure everybody is set and ready to go moving into the fight. The problem with it is whenever they had to step up and move, there were two squads that could take the shots back onto them. So they knew that they were going to be moving into a very aggressive fight and was trying to get as much work put into it beforehand as they could.
Yeah, unfortunate for them as we take a look at the highlights from game number 5. I mean, they tried to, right? They took that Wraith portal underneath, and all of a sudden they're like, well, here's a full TSM. I'm going to just mosey on back out of here. And you saw the back and forth trying to do whatever they could, but a lot of fights across this entire game. Easy Kaka started it off early and at a little bit towards the middle of the end of the game, but Rogue just back and forth, caught out a lot of times. They got dropped early and then caught on a rotation. And then we jumped over to aim assist. High ground able to move in. This is where we saw SMP, MVP, teams punching their own Pathfinder, you know, doing whatever they could to stay alive. But the team that came out ahead on all of it was TSM, who was able to rotate underneath first.
Oh, don't forget, while all of this is going on, NRG was calling this position home. They just got to sit back and listen to all the fight that was happening back around them. Also, good positioning coming out on multiple fronts, and this is going to be the fight that Sentinels ends up winning to get them a nice bit of position to play from in this later stages of the game. But TSM, so much patience coming in. Look at the fact they clear this one up, they get a ton of loot, and instead just try to wait this one out.
Yeah, I think the best part about it, too, is for any of these teams that were fighting, hey everybody, welcome back to the GLL Masters Summer. We got the Americas region. We just finished up game number 5. Casted today, myself, Lawler, alongside Matcham, giving you all the action and a pretty exciting one without any time in any way. So we're going to let Matcham take over and show you guys the scoreboard as we jump into how everything kind of played out.
All right, well, it all came down to the very end of this when everybody was shifting down around the same building. NRG going to walk away with 36 points, most of that based off of kills. Big performance coming out from them. I was worried about the fact that they wouldn't be able to pick up a lot of kills based off of their positioning and all the fight happening around the outside of it, but it looks like they managed to put in work when it was needed. On the other side of that, Team Solo Mid coming back in, getting 30 points for themselves. Unknown back behind that for 22. Sentinels with 20, Smile with 18, and Team Liquid with 18 as well.
Yeah, Energy was in that really interesting spot where they had the high ground on top of that building that TSM was underneath. And in the bottom floor, that was actually Liquid. So they ended up pushing down and putting some poke and eventually got rewarded for it. But despite that, Unknown team kind of sneaking their way in and getting the points and the kills to back it. I mean, this is a team that is really taking advantage. Same thing with Smile, where yes, we are not getting the best placement. You know, we're kind of in that in-between, but because we get a little bit extra of kills, we're still able to be in that top 5 spot. So congratulations to them. Sentinels, again, another team like we talked about that was kind of just sneaking in that spot where, you know, they were on the outside, they were able to swap armor, but at the end of it, TSM had the better positioning and were able to play it out and hold down the victory. So well played to TSM on that back end, but Energy going to be the one with the most points after round number 5. As we take a look at the leaderboard, you can see the overall results for the Alpha Division across the board. These are after all 5 matches today. And TSM, again, increasing their lead even more so.
It's just starting to get crazy at this point. 130 points on the day. That means the fact that the overall leaderboard is just going to be that much more of a lead whenever we take a look at it at the end of the day. Team Sentinels back behind that, racking up 90 points to work with. NRG having themselves a very good day, picking up 88 points. Rogue, who's been in the constant chase back up after TSM, slipping back down there towards the 4th place position, but still racking up a solid 82 points of their own. Back behind that, MVP, Ziploc Bags, Shiny, Muffin, Protectful. As a lot of people have to do some protecting of Protectful today as we keep finding him in the disconnect point. No Brenner's back behind that one. Aim Assist still popping off of 54 points, and TLP rounding up our top 10.
To give you guys kind of a perspective as well, TSM obviously coming into the day with 292 points, was just shy of 50 points ahead of the 2nd place team in the overall standings, and that team was Rogue. You want to see where they're at now? It is a huge difference and a gap that we talked about that may come into play here in week number 3, and you're seeing exactly that. And as well, you got to keep the focus on those bottom 5 teams. We're going to have a lot of eyes on them, especially Superior, who's a team that has been found in kind of towards the top. They were 5th place coming into today, so a huge swing as we start to see things play out. But those bottom 5 teams, you want to be avoiding of that spot. And Unknown, only 2 points out. So going to be paying attention a lot to them here in Smile as we jump into game number 6, our final one of the day. And it's going to be on Kings Canyon. So without further ado, I'm ready to get into it. Just a matter of these guys kind of being in that drop area. So it looks like it's starting ready to go. Matchroom, I mean, I'm looking at Smile and Unknown. I don't know about you, but you got your eyes on anybody else?
That's the big point to keep an eye on right now. You can see it's only 2 points separating them out. Back behind
even BKB,
that,
man, 36 points.
And Free Smoke tied up back behind us. Just a small performance could shift out our bottom 5 and really shape up the position to stay inside of the Alpha lobby right now. Because remember, that's the key factor. Moving forward, we're all building towards the grand finals. We've got 2 different lobbies that are set up, Alpha and Bravo, and everybody in that bottom 5 is going to shift back over towards it. Meanwhile, we're going to see TSM making their drop approach coming in, playing pretty close back over towards center. So let's see how everything's going to stack up, as we've been seeing a lot of hard shifts, a lot of edge play this time around. Maybe we'll get a friendly circle. I know that's what the players want, but I've been kind of enjoying all the edge circles.
Me too. I think it's been interesting to see those rotations and kind of the approach. I think those last games and how they end really tell you about how teams play certain scenarios. So I think that last game that we saw is going to be very telling for replay analysis for a lot of these teams, being able to go back and kind of paying attention to, okay, how should we have optimally handled this situation? Now that we have all the information, what things can we do better? So it's going to be interesting to see on how these things develop as we get our circle with the Pathfinders just outside of bunkers. So should be an interesting circle. A lot of places to play in this one too. A lot of elevation across. But I do enjoy maps that have kind of a gap that separates the terrain with a river in the middle, because it makes for some pretty interesting rotations.
Whenever you look at the river setups, whenever you look at how the canyon walls all line up, forcing their own independent choke points, that can be a huge factor coming up for the teams. Everybody that's watching right now is super familiar with the bunker location. It's one of the tried and true drop points for everybody that's ever played Apex coming into it. See, a lot of our teams kind of scattered across what is going to be the second zone, as we do have that Pathfinder information up and active. A lot of our teams back down towards the south. Going to have to be pretty cautious on this one, as already kind of hanging out, just relaxing for just a second.
Chilling in labs, just waiting for a victim to experiment on. We'll see if that ends up playing out here for SMP. Not sure if it's because they were caught out. I mean, Protectful was a player that might have rotated in there on their own, just out of a unique drop and try to escape. So quite possibly maybe someone nearby. But again, off on the lonesome as we jump over to aim assist, as Designful is going to drop in here. Kind of right outside
a lot of vision that they can work with up here, but not a lot really that's moving around them just quite yet. Also gets them pretty close back over towards the safe zone, so just kind of spotting it out. Do manage to look back down, spot out one, hit a little bit of damage onto it, enough to maybe reinforce it a touch. You can see it's going to be a Gibraltar shield coming out. Got to be very careful based on this peak, and aim assist is always in these high ground points, just raining down so much destruction on teams as they rotate away from them. As I say that, you can see a massive amount of damage just popping onto it, and this is the point where they're going to start their chase.
Absolutely love this play from Designful. Just immediately, as soon as he gets it, gets the reload, gets the heal off, and then they apply that pressure. But they need to be careful. There's so many teams nearby, and I think this is the issue, is they need to dedicate just to the one, but because not everybody is here yet, they can't go and engage on the team that Designful put so much damage on. So, again, going to try to back off here. There's a bunch of loot down below that not sure if they're going to be able to get to, or if he's just going to go for the redeploy. Not exactly sure what Designful's doing here.
Looks like he was kind of stepping back away from it, kind of regroup back over. You can see kind of separated out away from his teammates at the time. Trying to see if maybe he's going to regroup with the pings off in the distance. Feels like he's pretty separated, so wants to move in towards this mid game with a little bit of friendship. Go in with some camaraderie and in hand try to get a little bit of destruction. HRN, though, looks like they've managed to spot out a team inside a rotation. Takes a couple of shots, not a lot of connections off of it, so curious to see if they continue the aggression or just going to try to go for a replacement. Gets at least one tap for 36 back over towards it, but not enough to make a full-on aggressive push just yet.
Still plenty of shields to work with as they spot one at the doors. Probably going to throw a thermite at it. He does. Trying to burn that one away. He does get a couple bit of damage, so actually catches where the player is rotating as well and ends up peeking the door and getting shot for it. Needs to be a little bit careful. This player is taking different angles here, just trying to see if they can spot anybody. There is one up top, as Euris has a fully kitted longbow. Might be able to do some damage with that one from range. Looks like they're going to rotate away. They don't want to take this engagement too heavily. They think the fight's maybe gone and sustained for a little bit too long, so they back off, reposition, and live to fight another day.
So Superior's got themselves a nice bit of control just on the outside of bunker to work with. You can kind of catch anybody that's rotating along the path points for this. Going to be looking uphill quite a bit as Team Liquid's back on the other point, looking back down towards them. Trying to go for the shot, not quite going to connect just yet. Going to have to be careful with that, but at least going to force them to play a lot more protective. Looking over, you can see the amount of information that Liquid is working with. Finally connecting onto a couple of them, forcing the retreat to come back out, but there's not a lot of good options to go with as Team Liquid has just got so many beautiful angles to work with.
Yeah, really taking advantage of that high play. Just making sure that they can apply some pressure and maybe they get a pick. Either way, they don't have to aggress on it. They can just use those angles to really apply damage and kind of get the flush for the kill points. And as you can see, Energy going to be our first team actually removed here in the team track on the right-hand side. If you guys are just joining us, those dots next to all the teams is how many players are also still available on the team. So everybody fully healthy minus Energy getting caught out.
It's a shame Energy's been having a good day so far, but still going to walk away with a ton of points, so nothing to be too concerned with. Actually, they wanted to make their way up a little bit more and pick up a couple more of those double points, but they should be safely staying inside of our alpha lobby. So, you can see it's a lot of the fight right next to the river as bunker continues to be the stacking point for a lot of our teams. You can see a couple of them still playing on the outside edges of the ring, but everybody is starting to cluster right on that eastern opening of bunker.
Bunch of teams in the area. Just trying to see if they can find anybody to poke. BKB, a team that's been kind of hit and miss, I think, lately. They've had some really good moments, but at the same time, they've also been struggling to kind of really find their mark. They had a couple games earlier today where it looked like they were really trending in the right direction, but then they just caught out on a fight and kind of got overwhelmed by multiple teams on the rotation. So the team that has been trying to make their name known as they are a team that is trying to avoid that bottom five as we jump in with Rogue. On the outside, this is kind of where they like to play. They usually don't rotate too heavily in the middle, even though they are on that inner zone. Still a lot of teams. As Liquid, we jump back on top, still having that high ground, just waiting for his opportunity, his flanker to go for that shot, but getting poked from far by a charge rifle is going to force them to back off.
Something to keep an eye on. With all of these teams having vision back over towards each other and taking a pot shot here or there, that's going to lead up to massive stacking damage the longer that this all goes on. Each team is going to have to be very valued of their resources, make sure that they don't burn through too many more of their shield cells, don't burn through a lot of their health regeneration tools. So that's going to be a big point as we see all of these peak battles going on, specifically towards Liquid, as they're forcing a lot of these people to duck back behind cover. They're also drawing a lot of attention back over towards themselves.
Yeah, the other difficulty too is with not getting any of these kills or actually removing anybody, they're not really getting anything to continue the sustain. They just don't have the materials, whether it be ammo or shields or whatever it may be, to continue taking these trades. So they need to be very careful about how much they're going to actually put in effort-wise to this. At the same time, because people know they're there, maybe they'll back away. Maybe it'll allow them to get that further placement. So a couple options for these guys to decide upon is E-Squad up on top here, just outside of Repulsor on the tower. High ground as well, and might just barely be in this next circle, but again, going to be a tough rotation.
A lot of good little hidey holes for these teams to make their way into. Looks like containment pretty wide out in the open right now. TLP way up towards heaven right now, looking back down towards everybody, making rotations next to him. They've got control back over towards the east. Going to go ahead and hop back down. Teach the rock some respect as you land back down onto it. You never know. Got to go ahead and make sure that the map knows who's in charge.
Also not Repulsor. It's totally containment. They both have the exact same tower layout, and I was just like, oh yeah, I've seen this before because we've been spending all day at it.
And in defense, yes, we have seen that location quite a bit today. Coming back over here with Easy Katka making their push back over towards the north, giving a little bit of distance back down towards the teams that are rotating towards the south from them. Looks like they might still be just trying to track down anybody that's moving through this location, as they've opted to playing on the western side of Bunker. Most of the teams that we already know playing back over towards east, so it's going to allow them to have a lot of opportunity to step over and forward, this is kind of a little bit of open terrain. Sure, there's rocks and stuff like that, but no pot shots coming into play, so it makes for a much easier rotation when all of the teams are opting towards the other side of the map.
Yeah, they've got to be relatively happy with that rotation. The ability to kind of just go through their willy-nilly with no real aggression. I would expect to see a team kind of in that area just waiting to gatekeep, but luckily for them, able to get through the rough terrain, as you stated, and find themselves relatively healthy. BKB, the team I was talking about, who has applied some aggression. They were actually almost able to play spoiler on energy earlier, as Artini is going to try to back off as he's getting absolutely lasered from behind. Just him and his teammate here as they go for the chase down and are going to get removed. So unfortunately for Artini, they do get picked up by Odd Freestyle and Petty Boss. We're going to pick up 4 points for their team.
Smile playing back over towards the center of everything that's going on. You can see kind of being a touch of a dictator, noticing everybody that's moving around the high grounds next to them, trying to make sure that they contain the aggression coming out from these teams. Free Smoke moved back down towards the bottom, and you can see it's a very hazardous place to play from, trying to get a little bit of more rotation, trying to find some type of safety point to play from, as they know it can be very hazardous to play, especially next to the edge of the ring inside of this circle, as a lot of teams are going to be forced on very similar paths.
Yeah, you can even see it as they're trying to rotate into hard cover, just getting poked from the south side. So need to be absolutely careful, as Smile was one of those teams, those 2 points that they got on, or those 4 points they got on BKB, they were one of those teams in those bottom 5 that were kind of right on that edge. So going to be absolutely happy with that one, as you're seeing Panders just try to delay some. That EMP coming out, he's not going to be able to dodge it. So fantastic play for him, and never mind the EMP delayed a little bit as he's still in range and the bubble comes out. So Yukio having to fend off another team that's trying to aggress through. He's going to go for that peek, see if there's anybody there. Nobody there for Death Call. He's going to throw that Arc Star and push back the other way. They end up going to retreat and take a different angle of approach. So probably the better idea if the team knows where to aggress. And of course, it's TLP being the aggressor.
We've got two different wars that are kind of breaking down, back over towards the west side of Bunker and over towards the east. West side is a lot of run and gun, dip and dodge through cover, try to find some type of path to make it back into the next safe zone. Meanwhile, back over towards the east, it's a lot of long range shots and repositioning, knowing the fact that people have high ground advantage towards your placements. So, seeing both sides of Bunker play out, but nobody really opting to a lot of control over Bunker, just one team playing back over towards the west. Yeet Squad doing a lot of work back over in this high ground point, as you can see that they can look back over everything that's happening inside this side of the circle.
Yeah, I really like this play, and even if they don't, I think this is the best part about it. Six has the ability to go and give them a completely different vantage point of attack. So with that Wraith play, he's going to be able to attack from one side, and if he ends up being under trouble, he can just instantly retreat back to his team. He's got high ground, plenty of cover and defense. So at the same time, him being able to spot out for his teammate is going to apply a lot of aggression, and those engagements, as you see Reps just absolutely shred Pow Pow with the wingman. A lot of aggression coming out here from TLP.
TLP making their push back over towards it, just raining in the damage right up on top of the Gibraltar, trying to go for the pick around the side of it, going for the flushes onto it as quickly as possible. Going to go ahead and pick up the other one as well, as the long range shot's going to go ahead and take it down. Moves us down to 16 squads remaining, 44 alive, but that's the hazard whenever you play off along the side. Right as soon as they stop for just a second, it's going to be third-party shots coming after them.
TLP doing a good job, though, getting high ground here for Panders. Plenty of cover as well with that side of that rock. Has the high ground. Just kind of watching for shadows, seeing if anybody's going to come in. It's actually Easy Katka on the backside, another team that likes to play aggressive. But using that Wraith portal to drop all the way back. Going to have to rotate possibly through Bunker, but again, a big choke point that they need to be careful of as well. Still the portal here, so need to keep an eye on that before they dedicate to this push. Need to make sure they watch their flank as we jump over here to Sentinels, who's been pretty quiet so far in match number 6. Not a whole lot going on, but Rogue, unfortunate for Snipe Down, last one remaining.
Circle's going to pop back over towards the north. Snipe Down trying to secure a couple more points for his team. Not going to have to move too far forward, hoping that everybody's going to creep up and around him. Does see the shots off into the distance, and looks like he might have a little bit of friends making his way back over there. Finally, he's going to get spotted out and taken down, so that's going to remove a Rogue from the lobby. Meanwhile, HRN taking a couple of pot shots back over. Still need to move just a touch further forward, but they have themselves a control point with a foothold inside the next ring, so having to be no big rush coming out from them, really just trying to control the movement of teams around them.
Yeah, now with Rogue getting knocked down at 16th, no points to their name from the looks of it, unless some of his teammates got some kills. This is a huge opportunity for some of the teams, even more so for TSM. Already in the lead, already really spreading that gap. I mean, up by 50 plus. I mean, the extra, what, 40, 50 that they have today, it's going to increase that lead so much. So TSM has a really chance to separate themselves and basically give themselves a free week as they go in first moving forward. So again, Easy Kaka finally does commit to going down this bunker, but still being cautious of the team behind. It looks like one is trying to push as the Bloodhound is going to get some information off that. Curious to see how that'll play out as we jump over to TLP.
Gonna have to see Bunker finally make its way outside of the zone. Defensive line could be set up around that point. Ziploc bags find themselves in an interesting spot right now, just trying to survive this one through. And yep, looks like Bunker is going to be a fight for contention. Everybody knows the nightmare of fighting inside of this point. Quick push coming up in 4. Near on no vision to work with, but quick taps coming out from VAR. Going to go ahead and do the peek back around over towards it. It's going to be a quick exchange. You can see Shield eating up a lot of the playable shooting range. So now I have to be very careful on a peek back and forth. 2 members down for Easy Katka behind him. Trying to see if maybe he can force his way up and forward through this one. Quick exchange going back and forth. Gets a lot of damage back over towards this one. Can he finishes it out? Goes for the punch, takes him down, but the ring is going to come back up behind him and finish it out as well.
It's a really tough play. I mean, the zone is coming and he's getting that information from his teammates, but at the same time, he wants to flush those kills and get the guaranteed points. So at that point, he just plays aggressive and he ends up landing those shots and getting the victory, but it's all for nothing. The zone just wipes them both out in the end. And that's the difficulty of rotating back in, as we get a shots down from Smile, one of the players being removed completely. But the Devotion here on the top side going to absolutely shred this player who's using it to start. Can he get the victory here? Petty Boss going to take the time to use the shield battery. His teammate on the other side trying to apply some damage. His Scurry on the top end going to get dropped down, but it doesn't matter. The Devotion coming up with so much damage. And the Mastiff from long range, can he clutch it up? Goes on top and clutches it out. Well played by Smile, staying in this one.
Should be able to get the res on both of his teammates. Meanwhile, back over with Ziploc bags, you can see a lot of action happening, just trying to take the Wraith portal to get a little bit of a respite from it. North Yo-Yo is going to find himself in a position trying to get the shields back up, maybe go for a return into the fight. North Gobble's playing off one towards a different position, finally going to come back over and regroup. HRN, being the aggressors back over towards the north, are going to have to continue their way back over towards the southeast as they're on the hunt for every single firefight that's happening around them.
HRN extremely healthy, in a really good position, able to rotate low or high if they want to. Just trying to take a good sight line to make sure they're not found. And there is some grenades that they probably hear off to the distance, so trying to be a little bit careful, trying to be cautious, seeing if there's anybody here. They do spot the Watson fence, so pretty good inkling that somebody's in there. This is where a lot of the fights happen very early on in the game. It's just watching to see if they can spot anybody out there. Here's shots from behind, so find somebody deciding if they're going to make this engagement happen or not. Trying to gatekeep as they rotate through. Need some kills as well to separate themselves as they catch the team rotating. It looks like they're going to aggress.
Slowly creeping up back behind this one, stalking after all the teams are getting a forward push onto him. Hits him for a little bit of damage, taps up to a grand total of, I believe it's going to be 72. Shifting off towards the side of it, he does have a little bit of reinforcements coming up back behind it. There's the fact that that one building is just narrowly going to be inside the safe zone. You can see the fences down. Going to go ahead and throw out the Gibraltar shield as well. Going to just rain down death to everybody that's hiding inside of that. But got to be careful, as it's going to be a pushback behind him. Quickly getting a tap back around onto that one. Big plays coming out from HRN.
Need to be careful, though. Urice lands that clutch shot, but now they got to worry about the teams in the other direction. Luckily for this, Watson, it's going to stop any Gibraltar ults, but need to be careful as he does get dropped. More is down as well, as Urice, the last one available. No, Simply is actually able to get out, so trying to get these heals down. This is where they ended up taking over. There's that one player that they put damage on, but Yeet Squad just staring them down the barrel. So they do have the high ground. Plenty to work with here. Going to go back into the zone and see if they can pick up some utility, but there is literally no room for anybody but in, I can't even say it. There's no room for anybody else in that building, and luckily for the bubble, they're able to move out, but are they actually just going to portal this?
I can't believe that they managed to get that inside of everything. They managed to step back out, get the res. Urice does go down. Like, it's going to be problematic. There's not a lot of good angles to work with. Circle has shifted back over on the other side of the river to work with. 9 squads remaining right now. Urice does get head tapped out, and it's going to be 24 people alive, and there's not a lot of cover to be working with inside this next circle. So a lot of these teams going to have to fight their way through it and just hope that they come out on top.
I mean, for the people in that shack, I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, I'm looking at that Rift Portal is at 29%, so they've got a long time before they rotate. Speaking on the other side, you want to talk about being an edge camper.
I think that's about as close as you can get. They're still throwing down defenses as well, just in case somebody decides to come after them off of this point. But naturally, it's going to be because they're throwing down the Wraith Portal. I want to make sure that anybody that comes back through it can find themselves in a troubled position. So let's see how Smile can get anything out of this. One's portal is going to go down. Isn't going to buy him enough space. No Brainer seems to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, Mercy's well aware.
Trying to buy a little bit more space off of it. Take a throwable back over there. You never know what you're going to get out of it. Mercy only going to go ahead and drop down the ultimate. Gets a lot of taps right off the get-go. Good picks back over towards Scurry, but it's going to be some return shots coming back onto it. His aggression coming back through, but it's going to be No Brainers just still trying to hold the line back over towards their team. They have the ring that's closing in back over towards them, trying to creep over and forward. You can see it is just explosions and death galore on every single angle. You've got to be careful as you're making the approach, but they do manage to spot out a nice angle to work with, but is instantly stopped as it's going to be a caustic trap popping off in their angle. Smile finding themselves in a troubled position, finally getting spotted out, and it's going to be a continued push, but no surprise, it's going to be TSM looking back up the hillside, spotting out and trying to hit every single shot on anybody that's running into their path.
7 squads remaining. So much action going down. New Brinners on the outside, having to rotate through. They get dropped as well. Blur Flavor, the kill feed, dropping down. Extra Turkey, Blur also getting down Mercy. So 2 picked up for him as Unknown just trying to do whatever he can to protect his teammates. Matt is dropped down as Crummy and him on the top side, getting a lot of vantage point for this. Trying to find out, might be able to get the revive off, seeing what they can do as 2 squads were moved in this situation, but a ton of shots and then overwhelming pressure from the other side. They thought they were safe for a little bit, but after the revive, one gets dropped down again immediately.
Hey, be cautious from this position. New circles pop down below them. 4 squads left at the time, 10 people alive. Not a lot of good points. It's just really the terrain that people are clinging to, finding any copy that they can try to find to deny vision on everybody's approach. Team Liquid pretty close towards the circle right now, but has to be cautious as they're aware of what's going on around them. Starting to get the throwables out, connecting with a little bit of shots, trying to get the spin back over. Not going to get a lot out of it. Matt Pickett does go down inside of that exchange. Liquid still holding back over towards the top control, but not a lot of cover to work with. Nocturnal retreats back away from it, but has to be extremely cautious. If they peek back far, too far the other angle, they're going to find themselves spotted out, but it's going to be Flanker hitting a lot of damage onto the side of this one, just trying to make sure that he can put in any work, get those flushes out, make sure that they get established control over the circle.
Team Liquid's doing a really good job. TSM ended up pushing up into them, but it didn't matter. So that Shaq's still in that weird corner that I think Rogue was playing with as they push through. Superior down below and in a really rough spot as well. As we're going to see the circle now move in. Him and Vuzby, not a lot to play with. I think they're actually in down below here. So you're going to see Liquid probably clean up this last fight, and they do just that. So 3 teams remaining. Liquid up top and very well poised to take the victory.
Stepping back around onto this, inflicting a lot of damage back over towards the ultimate from Watson, denying all the shield regens that they can potentially get out of this one. Team Liquid still holding back over towards the high ground. Knows that there are teams back down below them, but don't have a lot of good options. If they drop down into this one, they know it could be a dangerous point for them to play. We saw a lot of throwables coming out from Team Liquid earlier. Goes for the peek up onto it, but you can see iShiny and crew still holding back over towards this angle, trying to cling for life. Anything that moves around them, they're just trying to get the spray back up for. You can see Protectables playing on the other side of them, but it's just a bounce around, and they know if they try to step out of this location, it's going to be hazardous for them. Instead, looking back over towards the right, have to be careful. Anytime they're wanting to go for a move, it's just going to be death and destruction laying down as Casper just takes down Shiny so fast. Quick follow-up is going to be coming up from the other side of it. Protectable goes down, and then there were 2 squads remaining. Instantly repositioning back up on top of this. Liquid is just taking command of this circle.
Casper trying to close it out. 2 squads remaining. Going to go for the flush. Where's the last one down below? Are they going to go for the aggression on it? Shots coming out. Just trying to finish it off. And they do just that. Team Liquid up on top and a lot of kills to boot. A minimum of 15 from what I saw should really jump them up in the leaders.
Team Liquid, we were talking about how they were having a little bit of a quiet day, coming in with gusto for this last round, and so much control of high ground positioning was a key component for victory inside that. You saw anytime somebody tried to move up and get on an equal sight line with them, they just punished the hell out of them.
I mean, you're seeing the 2 on the right-hand side and then the other player on the back end that's just trying to go for those flushes, remove those shields when they're knocked, and it just didn't matter. All that damage, they had it spread out very well, multiple points of attack, and the fact that they kind of spread out where that aggression is coming from, they're able to rotate back to another place that they know is safe. So good map knowledge as we see a lot of fights here on the southeast side or the southwest side of the bunker. Kind of a lot of action going down there with TLP. TSM also having that high ground here, just trying to apply some sort of damage. And rotation's relatively clean, but TSM has kind of cooled off towards the end of today. We also saw Easy Katka and many other teams deciding to rotate through, and this was the big clutch from Easy Katka where he decided to get aggressive on the Wraith, gets the punch for the knock, and then the zone claims his life. So unfortunate for him there, but a lot of action in a team like Smile was one we wanted to pay attention to. A team that was teetering between getting demoted or not. But after the kills that they kind of clutched up in the placement, I think they're doing okay.
HRN do manage to get control over that location, but it was at what cost? New Brainers still continuing their reign of terror. We've seen them have some big performances moving into today. It's trying to make use of that high ground, but it's unknown, bouncing back and forth. You can see taking the shots back over towards Liquid, and it just kept getting up close and personal as the terrain just allowed a lot of these teams to just try to clean down on the side. But look at Casper and the rest of the crew just massacring everybody. Every single time they got information, they repositioned based off of it, and the entirety of the team just continued to function together to make sure that there was nowhere that anybody could move to.
Yeah, really difficult situation for everybody else other than Team Liquid there, just positioning, remaining supreme. And I think a lot of it too was just Casper. The ability to get that angle up top and just completely remove.
Yeah.
There was two players over there. That could have been a really big issue if, I think it was SMP on the bottom side with Shiny, and I think it was McCarthy who was actually running out of ammo. I think he only had like 48 rounds on that R99 left. So trying to be sparing in those peaks and reloading, making sure that he was able to go. And then Casper just comes over the top and gives him one clip and is just done. So as soon as they do that, they have overwhelming pressure on top. Everybody's spread out, and they're able to clean it up. So really well done there. But that is our last match of the day. But before we kind of wrap it up, we've got some things to kind of tally up in the scores. And while we do that, we're going to show you guys a repeat of kind of what went down today as we take a look at the highlights here from match 10, 11, and 12 kind of back to back and kind of recap everything that went down.
Oh, yes, give it to me. I want the ring off the start. I almost feel like that should be worth an extra point, especially if you can just get some type of style play coming out. And look at the awareness. No Brainers talking about it a second ago. We've seen so many star performances coming out from them. Big aggression points, never afraid to take a fight, and it feels like they always have the information to win it.
I absolutely love this. The coordination from aim assist to just be instant give somebody. And then TSM, obviously, we talked about their ability. Ended up trying out the crypto in the tail end of today and being a little bit more aggressive. Amarelli on the defensive side with Gibraltar. So glad to see them mixing up and trying some different things as they get more comfort. And then these were the trades that you saw pretty much throughout the day. TLP, Sentinels, whoever it was, just third party after third party. There was no real safety. Same thing with Rambo in the end. He clutches up this fight, and then immediately another team comes in. And we saw that on both maps. I mean, even on World's Edge, there was teams that were running down the stairs with energy. I mean, it was non-stop today, but a lot of the clutch moments that we are looking for is how are these individual players going to step up? And you saw it from Nicewake here, having to pretty much fight this one on his own, as look how many people are surrounding him on the ground, and he wins that, he gets to clutch everybody else and get those kill points. But at the end, MVP here versus SMP. It was SMP that ended up clutching it, pretty much playing that whole fight 1v3 as you get the last kill here and show that they are the victors.
Good performance coming out from all of our teams today. I gotta say, big shout out to everybody that was involved. Enjoyed every single match as we made our way through. Know the fact that there was a couple of hiccups along the way, but that's prone to happen every once in a while. I gotta give a big shout out to production for tackling every single one of them as they approach, and all of our players for continuing to compete and put up the best show that they possibly can.
Yeah, while we do that, obviously, still going to then take out the match and the highlights for our second game of Kings Canyon if we want to jump into those. And this one had a little bit different of a theme to it. Obviously, we were waiting to see how are some of these other teams going to really step up. And at the end, it was ended up being that Team SM was going to come back on top. Even though they didn't have the most kills, this is one where we were underneath that building and energy was on top and Lick was inside. I mean, the ending was really unique, but to get to that point, we started seeing some consistency from these teams. A lot of aggression, a lot of fights using that bubble peak, but overall, Easy Katka, aim assist, we're starting to really get their ball rolling.
Yeah, it's all about understanding how to move through the map, and we saw this be the recipe for success for a lot of these teams. Unknown making the push back down below, and you can see a lot of these teams opting to take fights down below the houses. I know we talk a lot about TSM getting control over housing and location, but you can see spotting out, knowing where rats are going to be potentially hiding at. Yeet Squad playing down below complexes. You can see also on the other side of that, Energy is holding down a complex. TSM going to be moving into down below housing yet again to get control over everything that's happening around them.
Yeah, I was interested to see if there was going to be an engagement between TSM and Yeet Squad, as they both had those little rounds. Yeet Squad was actually eyeing them up as well with that longbow, but it wasn't there. This is the play I was talking about with NRG dropping down to go for Team Liquid. And then they ended up playing top house. They started putting a lot of poke for Sentinels, but it was the passive play. TSM decided not to engage. They sat underneath that house. They waited for the zone to play out. And then one of the teams, I think it was Sentinels, ended up taking that portal right to their front door. And that kind of created the chaos, which TSM, because they had the positioning, they had the back end, able to drop down the Gibraltar ult and just waited for it to play out. So TSM doing a really good job on their positioning on the back end of that one. That was game 5. And then again, for just as a recap sake, we're going to jump into round number 6 or game number 6, our last and final one of the day that we just saw. And again, a lot of aggression, man. It was chaos all day today from the Americas.
I bet that's what you love to see, and it's always measured aggression, knowing how you're going to make the approaches coming in. And we saw a lot of this just a second. TSM holding down this high ground position, raining down a lot of information. And you talk about information control and sight lines. This is a prime example of it. On the other side of that, how many times has this happened inside of one of your games? You get caught up in these fights around bunker. You just can't disengage from everything that's going on, and it's just the ring that just does a massive amount of work to you.
Yeah, it's really difficult too. I mean, I've got some buddies that play meme picks with Caustic, even though Caustic's a very good pick now. They'll purposely drop bunker and just stay there the whole game while I'm fending for myself 1v3 in other fights. So
I feel like it's like 90% of all Caustics that want to do that.
Oh yeah, 100%. The difficulty with that bunker push too is like they could have rotated back with the portal the other way. It's just there were so many teams on that top side, but they decided to stick inside with Katka, so that ended up being the fight. And even though they checked their flank, they still let the team kind of get ahead of them, and eventually it was just the clutch up. This is the Casper fight I was talking about too, where he goes up top and just absolutely removes this team. So because he's able to take out McCarthy, Protective's left alone, and then from them, they're able to just kind of spread out and take these fights from different angles, and makes it really easy for themselves. So Team Liquid just playing really high ground, playing aggressive, and it ends up playing out. Even before that, they were up on those cliff sides and just kind of sitting with that wide angle and just raining havoc, man. They did a really good job of controlling the field at the tail end, and I'm excited to see how many points they actually got out of it, because it's going to make a huge difference moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it looks easy peasy whenever you get back into it, and they just have everybody else that's clustered towards the rocks, and it's Team Liquid looking down. But that's based off of control that they had, exactly like you were talking about. They were forcing everybody to just huddle up because there was nowhere else for these teams to go. Anytime somebody stepped out, Liquid was just draining some type of death back over towards them, forcing them to try to dodge out of anything that was coming their way.
Yeah, it's just awesome to see the coordination as well and how they engage that. Without, I mean, obviously there's probably got to be some sort of communication with it, but I mean, the thing that I enjoy the most is how these guys are so instinctively able to move from one position to another, and the way they do it. It's just, I'm a huge fan of seeing how the legend choice and everything kind of comes together. It's one thing to like prepare for it, but it's awesome to see it actually come into play. So I think it was on the top side. It might have been Smile or somebody else, where they take the rift or the Wraith portal down below. They get a wider angle. TSM shooting from another area. And they just pressure everybody who's already in zone, but then they also have that high ground to retreat to with Watson. It's like you're seeing all these factors come into play, and you're seeing it firsthand, like why they go with these team comps, and you get to see the effectiveness of it. So I absolutely love seeing the stuff like that come together. Even if TSM's going a little bit crazy and trying out the crypto and going a little bit more aggressive, we get a little bit of everything. But with that all said, we got 6 matches. We're going to jump into the scoreboard here to see how that last one played out, and we've got the results here. 15 kills for Team Liquid, so definitely being rewarded for their aggression.
Coming away with 54 points. That's got to feel good. Meanwhile, Unknown back behind that, tying up with Team Superior, walking away with 24 points. iShiny Muffins Protectful consistently showing up on the left side of the leaderboard today, walking away with 18 points themselves. Smile back behind that with 12. It's going to have TLP back behind that with 12, New Brainers with 12, and Yeet Squad with 12. Feels like that's the magic number for this round.
Hey man, it seems to be the middle of the pack, but the big one that's going to kind of pay attention to my mind is, how is it going to play out with Smile? Obviously, Smile was kind of in that area in that bottom 5 where they needed a couple points to keep themselves out. As we take a look at the leaderboard here, and here are the results. Both Easy Katka and many others in alike. Smile, Aim Assist, Yeet Squad, all promoting and able to stay out. And unfortunately, a team that we had our eyes on last week in HRN is going to be dropping down. Team Superior, who was 5th in the standings overall, also dropping down. So with that said, some things remain the exact same. TSM on top with a heavy lead going into week 4.
At this point, I'm kind of curious if TSM are just sitting back and singing "Show Me the Money." in a nice, strong position. Their lead is going to start to be unapproachable at this point. They've got a stranglehold back over towards first. You can see that Sentinels are trying to step up. They had themselves a good day, but remember, whenever we were looking back over towards the overall leaderboard, it's going to still be a continued chase coming out back behind them. So let's take a quick look at how we'll look back over towards Bravo, coming back up, moving their way into the Alpha Lobby. It's going to be Wraith One Tricks. I wonder how they pick out who's going to play Wraith. 303 Esports, Solo Fide coming back. Anime Girls, woo! I know I'm going to make you happy, and going to be Roof Koreans as well.
Yeah, really good play at the top of this when we ended up checking in with them last time at the halfway point. 303 was up top, Solo Fide second. So two of these teams were actually ones that were recently dropped down. Anime Girls spent a week in here and are able to battle their way back, but a lot of these teams at the beginning of the day we talked about, when we hit that halfway point, when we check in with them, there's still plenty of time, and Anime Girls does a fantastic job. I think they were like 14th or 15th when we checked in with them last time, so a big jump over 3 matches. It looks like Kings Canyon is their thing. And with that said, let's take a look at the totals for all 3 weeks up to this point. TSM with a clear 104-point difference. Wow.
I don't even have words for that one. That is a massive showing. They have 100 points on Rogue back behind them. Sentinels is creeping up, trying to contest back over for Rogue's positioning, but it feels like everybody is just chasing after whatever TSM leaves behind them. 303 Esports off their performance coming in from Bravo Lobby, still going to be able to hold up into a nice position, staying up over into 4th, but Team Liquid having themselves a good round, going to step up 1 point ahead of Eye Shiny Muffins and Protectful.
Yeah, I think big credit as well to 303. Even though they dropped down to the Bravo Lobby, they keep and retain their spot in 4th. So congrats to them. TSM Rogue Sentinel stay the exact same. You're going to see here in Team Liquid jumping from 11th all the way to 5th. And then a couple others dropping down. Team Superior, surprisingly enough, didn't have the best day. They are getting demoted. But with that said, they're only dropping a couple spots from 5th to 8th. So credit to them. Energy's starting to climb. So you're starting to see things work its way out. But at the end of the day, it is very hard to ignore TSM. 214 placement points, 108 kills, top of both. And man, do they have a convincing lead.
It is just dominance coming up. We talk about the greatness that is TSM whenever we talk about North American Apex Legends and how it all plays out. These guys are just so freaking strong. I mean, think about that. We're looking at 300 points, 328, I believe I remember back behind that, and a 100-point lead on top of that. That's a third of the total score that the second team back behind them still has to come up with.
We talk about week in and week out. I mean, obviously we're 3 weeks in now. That is 6 matches a day, so 18 matches total. And these guys have shown consistency, and that's what it's all about, is we want to reward the guys that are able to compete week in and week out, even with the adjustments, even with the ability to make these changes to the meta. I mean, Rogue, I think, started off the right way. They came in with a tried and true, the consistency that they've been able to rely on, and they end up showing everybody why they do it. TSM, who's been struggling, adopts that. And even more so today, they try out with that lead the ability to go into a competitive environment and test out the crypto and get some real life experience to see if they can actually really implement this. And when it works, it is absolutely lethal. So TSM, credit to you guys. You deserve all the praise you get as you continue to still dominate the Americas in Apex Legends. You guys are phenomenal.
And it's a scary thing. When you have a 100-point lead on second place, that enables you to start kind of doing whatever you fancy at any given point. If you want to just go play it a little bit more aggressive, that's fine. And we know how TSM, they love to stack up the wins. They like the notoriety ball, especially on the top 5. But now they have the free liberty if they're like, hey, you know, we can go for this fight. Let's go ahead and do it. It gives them the comfort to say, hey, we can afford this win, so let's just go ahead and take it if we think that we can get it. And once that happens, that sometimes opens up the floodgates to allow even higher point totals to follow it up.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see on how they end up playing in the following weeks. Obviously, with that big lead, they can play a little bit more careless. But at the same time, I hope they kind of own it in and realize, like, okay, yes, we do have a commanding lead. We've seen how much of a big of a swing we can get in 1 week. That can happen with anybody else too, because TSM's a lot of the reason why they're gatekeeping a lot of these teams. They're removing a lot of their big competitors. So again, I hope they still kind of level-headed with it. But at the same time, if they want to go and frag out and play a full aggressive comp, W key comp, I welcome it.
Keep in mind, it's not necessarily carelessness that you play with when you've got that much of a lead. It's just the ability to make an aggressive play if you want to. One that sometimes you might be a little bit more hesitant to take if you're running inside the competition. And whenever you have that potential, really everything comes open and available to you at that point.
Well, Matchroom, that's going to do it here for week 3. Before we kind of close out here, any final thoughts that you have on the day or moving forward until we get back next week?
Is there anything that can ever stop TSM at this point? Because it sure as hell feels like nothing can.
Well, we're going to find out next week, guys. That is going to wrap it up here for week 3 of the GLL Summer, or the Masters Summer. Lawler here calling all the action alongside Matchroom. We greatly appreciate you guys coming and hanging out. Also, massive round of applause. The guys here that are running the production put on a ton of effort from both the beginning of the day and the end of the day. So it is a lot of effort on their part, especially with the server issues and everything else going on. So again, massive congratulations to TSM for continuing to reign dominance. Helps from the Observer, the production team, Matchroom, cast alongside me. But again, for you guys in chat, without you guys watching, we have nothing to broadcast to. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. But that is going to do it for us. We will see you guys next week for EMEA starting early 19 something. I forget the exact times. It's late. My brain's fried. I don't want to keep production here any longer. But again, we appreciate you guys being here. That is going to wrap it for us. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.